Hey, and welcome back. So I just started the stream of Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages earlier today. Damn, dude, I was so excited to get into that. It was almost overwhelming how, brand new and cool and, full featured it was to me, because I've never beaten that game. So yeah, keyword, I'm kind of overwhelmed today. But I think that's perfect. We kind of want to unwind and wind down whenever it comes to reading aloud. So, what better than to read some more SCP Foundation Wiki today, hey? I think it's time for it. And, dude, last time I did this, it was just sort of on a whim. I had been planning to stream this at some point. But we had complications with the game that I was going to stream that day, so I decided, let's just get into it, dude. Why not? Might as well start this concept and, maybe I'll flesh it out. And, dude, here I am, fleshing it out just a bit more. So, yeah, we're gonna read more of the SCP Foundation Wiki. I think it's gonna be fun. And, last time I was only able to get through about 10. I'm not sure if I want to stay consistent with that, or if I want to just, wing it and whatever fits in a 2 to 3 hour time frame, maybe. We'll see, but I think I might overshoot that today. Maybe undershoot it, who knows? Because last time we had at least one article linking to sub-articles, and it kind of made it harder to, meet a quota of reading 10 per stream. So I think I'm just gonna wing it, and we'll just do it as is. I think the only reason to stick to 10 per quote-unquote episode is maybe someone's looking this up on YouTube and they're like, hey, I want to have 11 to 20 specifically narrated for me. I don't think that's gonna matter though. I think I'm just gonna title it, by whatever part we start on. So yeah, dude. It's time for more reading the SCP Foundation Wiki. And like I did last time, we've done this with the Kenshi streams, we've done this with something else, I can't remember. I'm going to have music playing in the background just to, fill up the white space. It's better than just having nothing in the background, in my opinion. So, this is music from my personally curated playlist of just video game music. Enjoy. But this is kind of a scary, interesting, whimsical song to start with. So yeah, here's the SCP Foundation Wiki. And I think I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, just sort of show the entire article, scroll through it quickly, and then we'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, let's get back to where we were. We were in Series 1. You can tell I sort of set this up on the fly because I don't have the page open yet. But yeah, let's get right back into this. I'm just going to hydrate really quick. Enjoy the music introducing us right back into this. And I'm going to start in a second. Okay, so here's the Wikidot page for SCP-011. There's just a quick scroll through for you, and let's zoom in. How's this look? Oh, that looks fantastic. Yeah. I did all of this while I was taking a break on stream. And in OBS, you either show it to get live feedback on how you're editing the capture, or you have to click into it and click out and click back into it. I did the latter, so I'm glad it turned out looking good. Okay, SCP-011, item number, SCP-011, object class safe. Here is the image for 011. I'm gonna do the same thing as last time as well. I'm just gonna try to narrate exactly what I see here for, hard of hearing audiences. Maybe I closed caption this at one point. And, I don't know, for blind as well, I don't know. Yeah, so here's the image for 011. It appears to be a statue, maybe, the typical, park statue that you would see just venerating a local, denizen of the community. It appears to be maybe Civil War soldier though. The rifle they're holding is quite old. The material of the statue seems like just stone perhaps. But yeah, it's perhaps like a Civil War era character wearing a hat. They've got like a trench coat on or something, some pants, decently high boots. They're holding what appears to be maybe a 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s rifle, perhaps. The monolith holding up the statue itself, or I guess I should say monument, appears to be inscribed with C-A-G or maybe O-A-G or something. The inscription's kind of hard to make out. But yes, this appears that it is not in a park. It is perhaps on top of a building, because I can see roofs in the distance and maybe a chimney, and there's just a large tree in the background. It's just a very cloudy day. So let's enjoy this one together. Special containment procedures. Item O11 and the area surrounding it are to be cleaned once every day. Oh, the caption for the image, by the way, is just SCP O11. For safety purposes, cleaning should start at least 30 minutes after sundown. Cleaning should always be performed by at least 2 personnel. We're also advised to note anything unusual about the item or the debris cleaned up. In a situation where the item cannot be cleaned for more than 2 days, local residents must be contacted and instructed not to approach the item. Containment procedures nullified, 2004. One second. Okay, we're back. I just disconnected from the internet, so I had to reconnect on Twitch, reset the internet, etc. Anyway, let's continue this. So I was right about this. Description. SCP-011 is a Civil War memorial statue. Located in Woodstock, Vermont. The statue is the image of a young male soldier holding a musket at his side, and is carved out of granite quarried within the area. Occasionally, O11 has been observed lifting its musket to the sky to fire at birds which attempt to land or defecate on it. Reports detail that its movements produce soft grinding sounds but do not cause it any structural failure. Oddly, the gunfire is very similar to that of a standard firearm, despite observations that the item only loads granite bullets and granite powder into the musket, which is also unharmed by the firing. In spite of its efforts, some fecal matter does manage to strike O11, and it has reportedly become distressed when it has had a large amount of feces on it, on some rare occasions even firing at humans. It's not necessarily safe, but it is sort of just a community menace, if anything. Very odd. Okay. Addendum. Those assigned to maintain O11 are to see Document O11-1 for instructions. Document O11-1 Maintenance Brief. Document Archive 2004, accessible to personnel with security clearance 2/O11 or higher. Additional information, O11's seeming sentience has increased since the first report of activity in 1995. As of 2004, the item's containment procedures have been dropped, but it remains under constant observation. Recorded below are landmark events in its activity. Timeline. 3/12/1995. Woodstock resident reports the statue's eyes moving. First sign of activity. 3/12/1995. 9/30/1995. Statue shoots musket for the first time. 10/9/1995. Statue begins shooting birds from the sky. 1/25/1996. Registration as O11 containment procedures begin. 4/14/1997. O11 observed moving casually and looking around. 5/3/2000. After caretaker blank blank jokingly shouts, "Good shot!" to O11, the item replies, "Thank you," in a reportedly very human voice. First speech from statue. 10/22/2001. O11 has conversation with caretaker blank blank. 2001. Shooting of birds stops. 2/6/2002. At the imploring of blank blank, O11 steps down from its pedestal. 2003 to 2004, O11 reaches a human level of self-awareness. 11/10/2004. Containment procedures dropped. Custody of O11 transferred to blank blank. 5/17/2005. Blank blank reports that O11 is romantically attracted to her. Hey, it's a match made in heaven. 8/29/2006. Most recent psych test reports an IQ of 133. So really, this is just a love story that ended up happening. I guess one of the caretakers took over for the SCP object, and it may be dangerous to people, but it was more of like a... there needed to be a proper psychological analysis to determine that it was really just angered by the birds or something, and maybe lashed out at the local populace. Very interesting. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Alright, SCP-012, there's no image here. There's the full page for you. 012, Item 012, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 012 is to be kept in a darkened room at all times. If the object is exposed to light or is seen by personnel using a light frequency other than infrared, remove personnel from mental health screening and immediate physical. Object is to be encased in an iron-shielded box, suspended from the ceiling with a minimum clearance of 2.5 meters, 8 feet, from the floor walls and any openings. Description: 012 was retrieved by archaeologist K.M. Sandoval during the excavation of a northern Italian tomb, destroyed in a recent storm. The object, a piece of handwritten musical score entitled On Mount Golgotha, part of a larger set of sheet music, appears to be incomplete. The red-black ink, first thought to be some form of berry or natural dye ink, was later found to be human blood from multiple subjects. The first personnel to locate the sheet, Site-19 Special Salvage, had two members descend into insanity, attempting to use their own blood to finish the composition, ultimately resulting in massive blood loss and internal trauma. I remember this. This was one of the first SCPs I was introduced to from 4chan or something, I think. Following initial investigations, multiple test subjects were allowed access to the score. In every case, the subjects mutilated themselves in order to use their own blood to finish the piece, resulting in subsequent symptoms of psychosis and massive trauma. Those subjects who managed to finish a section of the piece immediately committed suicide, declaring the piece to be impossible to complete. Attempts to perform the music have resulted in a disagreeable cacophony, with each instrumental part having no correlation or harmony with the other instruments. That's kind of spooky. It reminds me a lot of, we just did a Zelda stream earlier. It reminds me of Ocarina of Time, Sharp and Flat, how they dedicated their whole lives to the music. On Mount Golgotha, surely there must be at least 3 black metal albums with this name. Holy shit, you're probably right. Yeah, I'm sure either this is like some deeper reference, or maybe, yeah, someone just references this SCP. I wonder now. On Mount Golgotha, what is this gonna give us? SCP Foundation. SCP Containment Breach soundtrack? Okay. What mountain was Jesus crucified on? Mount Moriah, the Temple of Solomon, the place of Isaac's sacrifice, and Golgotha. So it must be like some biblical Christian theology thing. Interesting. Yeah, I don't doubt that then. I bet a bunch of hard metal artists have made that. Mount Golgotha was the place where Jesus was crucified. Okay. Well, that adds a little bit more context for me then. Okay, this one is clickable for some reason. 013. I guess it says updated in the URL, so presumably someone went back to update this image and just made it clickable for the wiki. I bet that's all it is. Anyway, there's the page, here's the image. Blue Lady. It appears to be a marker Kind of an ornate marker, maybe just a slightly expensive one, simply because it's sort of outlined right at the cap of the marker with what appears to be a gold trim. Otherwise, it's just a simple, perhaps whiteboard marker, just a blue cap, kind of wide-tipped marker, most likely. It has a black butt and a white length. It seems to say Blue Lady in a serifed fancy text. And in the background is just the SCP logo, or SCP Foundation logo, in what appears to be maybe etched steel or something. That's a cigarette? I guess it could be a cigarette, yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm getting like the... they do that weird test for schizophrenia subjects where it's a mask, and you try to perceive which side of the mask it is. Yeah, I'm getting some of that right now. I'm seeing different... what's the word for it? I'm getting like an optical illusion from this. It definitely looks more like a cigarette now that you said that. Thanks, Toast. Yeah, now that I have that context, I mean, the blue region is clearly a bluer filter, dyed filter for a cigarette. It's got a gold band in typical cigarette fashion. This is probably like a 90 or a 100 cigarette. Looks like an American Spirit or something. And yeah, Never Knows Best. It has text written on it that says Blue Lady. Yeah, now that I'm looking closer, there's clearly a seam, maybe, I'd say 5/6 of a way down through the Blue Lady and across the length of the cigarette, which is clearly where the paper is folded into itself. Cool. Alright. O13, item number O13, object class safe. Special containment procedures. O13 are to be kept in a secure storage vault at Site 66. Exposed subjects are to be monitored for differences between their symptoms. Oh, by the way, I keep forgetting this. I think it's because we keep having examples where the caption for the image is just the name of the SCP, but yeah, the caption for the image is SCP-013. Exposed subjects are to be monitored for differences between their symptoms. Exposed subjects are to be interviewed daily, and any changes in perception are to be logged. Description: O13 is the collective designation of 242 cigarettes which displays similar anomalies. The most common external detail between instances is the presence of the words Blue Lady, handwritten on each cigarette in blue ink. Well, whoever's handwriting this has very good handwriting. Subjects who consume the contents of O13 through inhalation will begin to perceive themselves as a specific unidentified woman. So it's like Funny Cigarette 60. Except for one particular high. Subjects have described the woman to be aged between 25 and 35 years old, standing approximately 1.6 meters tall with an estimated height between 1.6 meters tall with an estimated weight of between 50 and 55 kilograms. Additional recurring details include cropped dark hair, blue eyes, and bright blue lipstick. So this lady is very fond of the color blue, apparently. Immediately after consuming an instance of O13, subjects will gradually begin to perceive reflections of themselves as having the features of the woman, and will gradually perceive their bodies changing to reflect her appearance over the course of the following weeks. All changes are entirely mental. The subject's body does not change outwardly, only their perception of themselves. These alterations are permanent and cannot be reversed. Okay? We have like fucking ISIS cigarettes or whatever that... I'm thinking of the RuneScape goddess, not the Egyptian goddess, but like Amasket cigarettes. Going fucking Icthlorin's little helper. That's what it is, Icthlorin. She would take over people's bodies and just immediately demon form them. O13 was discovered after the suicide of an Ian Miles, packed in a large cardboard crate in his apartment. A cursory search of the apartment uncovered several hundred sketches of a figure strongly resembling the one perceived while under O13's effect. Miles' body had been found sitting at a desk, dead of a massive overdose and draped over a handwritten note, transcribed below. During the investigation of Miles' apartment, one civilian investigator became affected by O13's effect. An embedded agent soon contacted the nearest site. The subject, the artifact, and related evidence were extracted and contained. Currently, 217 instances of O13 cigarettes are contained at BIOS Site 66. 25 O13 cigarettes are contained at Research Sector 09, pending future research into similar anomalous effects. This link links to SCP-1890, so I'm not going to click that. We'll probably reach that at some point if this series keeps going on. Okay, currently 217, yeah, okay. Addendum. Below is the note which was acquired along with O13. I see her everywhere, that sad blue lady. I feel like Strike-Through used to, Strike-Through should. Know her, but I can't remember. I love her, but I don't know why. She's so beautiful and sweet and clear, but I don't know anymore. Her favorite flavor. Where did you go? I miss you. This one's just one of those creepypasta ones. Keep clearing my throat, my apologies. I just ate, so that usually happens after I eat. Yeah, I mean, it is safe, but it definitely has some very detrimental effects to the psyche of the user. I wonder if this could be tested on maybe, I mean, I hate the idea of this, morally and as, like, myself, but within context of this story, I wonder if they could test this on, like, a primate who's capable of sign language, and see if the primate is, well, maybe not even capable of sign language, just see if the primate identifies as the blue lady. Very interesting. Alright, let's move on to O14. Yeah, I feel like we're definitely going to encompass 10 today. Alright, here's the page for O14. No image. And let's do this. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Toast, I just met you earlier today. I know you said you like retro games, so I'm sure this is kind of out there for you. But I hope you're enjoying this. I mean, this is kind of a new series I'm checking out, so it's sort of new for both of us. And yeah, thanks for coming by and watching the stream, by the way. And thanks for everybody that's watching. I just wanted to call out a new chat member who's so cool so far. I mean, we've been getting a lot of cool people, but it's nice to meet super cool people, you know? So I hope you're enjoying. All of you. Okay, O14. Item number O14. This is some old school internet goodness? Oh, okay. Somebody's familiar here with SCP Foundation. Okay. Alright, I hope you very much enjoyed this trip down memory lane then. Item number O14, Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. O14 is to be kept in Site double blank. In a chair with arms, preferably facing a window. Music should be supplied on a regular basis, preferably constantly. The music should not include pieces originating after 1937. A security camera should be present in O14's room. Yeah, I grew up with SCP Foundation as well. As a lot of us kids who grew up on the internet, I mean, I got my first laptop at like 14, I think? Fitting number. But yeah, I mean, I got into SCP Foundation a little later, maybe when I was like 16 and first discovered 4chan X and whatnot. So, I don't remember what my first exposure was, but it was probably Peanut. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, description. O14 is a Caucasian male, appearing to be approximately 30 years of age, with black hair, brown eyes, and a somewhat round face. Records indicate his name to be Robert Chetford, confined in 1915 to the Norwich Asylum in Connecticut for delusional insanity, claiming that he had been cursed to live forever and was slowly turning into concrete in consequence. The asylum closed in 1937, and the patients were transferred to various other facilities. O14 came to Foundation attention in 19 double blank from rumors of a patient who seemed to be entirely immobile and showed no signs of aging. Further investigation determined that acquisition was warranted. O14 is to all outward appearances a normal man, but he does not appear to age and shows no signs of possessing a metabolism. He does not eat, drink, perspire, or in any other way demonstrate life functions. He breathes only to speak, and apart from his eyes and vocal apparatus, is to all appearances utterly immobile. He has never shown any evidence of pressure ulcers despite his position not having varied for several decades. Neither do his muscles appear atrophied. He can converse normally but shows little knowledge of or interest in events since his confinement. Interesting, so he's kind of stuck in the same time too, not even in the same position. Addendum Note: frankly, were I to interview this man without knowing his history, I think he was a perfectly sane and well-adjusted individual who happens to be quadriplegic. As it is, I have to conclude that he's the ultimate proof of the idea that the mind rules the body. He thinks he's concrete and will live forever, and so he's as close to both as he can be, somehow. Dr. Blank. I am a big fan of this one, partly because of that second to last line right there. This is a defining characteristic of a lot of the SCP Foundation entries and the Wiki as a whole. In fact, all of the stories sort of glean this a lot. As it is, I have to conclude, he's the ultimate proof of the idea that the mind rules the body. So, some very deep references to the overarching Wiki there. Alright, that was O14, Statue Man. Let's move on to O15. Ooh, this one reminds me a lot of Doctor Who. I was first discovering the Mark 102 and 101 TARDISes whenever I first discovered this Wiki page. I mean, I didn't do the full, 001 onward read-through until sort of recently. Obviously, I didn't complete the whole Wiki or anything, but this reminds me a lot of the Mark 101 TARDIS's interior. You don't have to have context, just, I don't know. She's horrible compared to the Mark 102 TARDIS, so I'd imagine her architecture to be very confusing and hostile, which that is very much so. So let's take a picture, or take a look at the image of 015. And there was the page for you really quick. Just going to zoom in on this. So this is 015. It appears to be a very messy, I don't even want to call it a warehouse. It's just an amalgamate of machinery, it appears. Some very large flux duct tubing. I would assume this is just reinforced cabling or wires at the floor, with what appears to be even larger tubing next to it. Perhaps reinforced tubing. The floor appears to be, if concrete, very clean, or if not concrete, then perhaps dirty, or if metal, maybe just a bit bashed and maybe not rusted, but just scuff marks everywhere and stuff. It appears there's a lot of wires on the floor. The large section of wiring in the center appears to lead into a maze-like architecture of machinery. I mean, there's no really clear exit there, so it really could just be an overhang of machinery and this is a dead end that we're viewing. But it does seem to go off into the distance, and it is sort of just a bunch of piping, sort of barricading around to make a tunnel, and what appears to be even a light inside the tunnel, if anything. I mean, this is just a confusing amalgamate of machinery. There are tons of pipes, there's a lot of verticality, there is some light poking out in the distance through presumably a gap in the machinery, or maybe just a thin area where light is able to bleed through. It appears maybe there's a safety-lined ladder on the edge, or maybe just even more tubing. It looks like a hose leading into a valve or something. Perhaps this could be the inside of just a large factory, and this is just a very messy area. But yeah, I can't really make heads or tails of what any of this is. It just appears to be a lot of machinery. Maybe this is an engine or a generator. There's a few lights strewn about. Has a H.R. Geiger feel almost. I don't know too much about H.R. Geiger. He's the guy that wrote the Time Machine, though, isn't he? I should read some H.R. Geiger. Thanks for your input, because I feel like that's fitting, but like I said, I don't know any of his stuff. So I don't know. Maybe H.R. Geiger feel to this? Behind what I think is the safety ladder, just a metal ladder with a bridge on the outside of it to prevent you from easily falling. It looks like there's some polygonal objects, or maybe a creature. It also appears there's a puddle on the ground, and perhaps some dirt or rocks or something. Yeah, it's hard to really discern what any of this is. Perhaps this is a window leading into a foreman's room in a factory, or perhaps this is just something entirely non-Euclidean and insane. No, H.R. Geiger is the guy that does crazy artwork. Okay. Let's go look him up really quick. Geiger. He designed the monster from the Alien movies. What? Watch, DuckDuckGo is gonna give me, yep, the picture of him, not his art. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see it here. Very, ooh, I can identify with this art a bit. Yeah, I can see some very Geiger-esque here. It's very multi-layered and detail on almost every single aspect of it. Absolutely. It has some Geiger archaeology to it. Archaeology? Architecture. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, O15. Item number O15, Object Class Euclid. The caption for the image says, Interior View of O15. Special Containment Procedures. O15 is impossible to move and is contained on site. A gap of at least 2 meters, 6 feet, needs to be maintained around the entire structure containing O15 at all times. And no structures of any kind are to make contact with O15's current containment structure. Exploration is permissible, but only in teams of 3, parentheses 3, with full safety lines and GPS tracking. Yeah, this is the interior of a TARDIS. This is like the heart of the TARDIS. Any protrusions from O15 must be capped and sealed immediately, with the new site recorded and logged. No aggressive action is to be made within O15. No hand or power tools are allowed anywhere inside O15. No repairs or maintenance are to be made anywhere on O15. So capped and sealed means really they don't even repair, they just have some apparatus to contain any leak or something like that. Hey, Zelda music. Description: O15 is a mass of pipes, vents, boilers, and other various plumbing apparatus completely filling a warehouse in blank. So it's pretty close. The pipes appear to grow when not under observation. Attempting to connect to nearby structures via sewer systems and underground plumbing. O15 contains, at current estimate, over 190 kilometers, 120 miles, of pipes ranging in diameter from 2.5 centimeters to over 1 meter. Some pipes appear new, while others are rusted and leaking. Pipes have been reported as being made of bone, wood, steel, pressed ash, human flesh, glass, and granite. No pipes composed of lead, PVC plastic, copper, or any other traditional material for the production of pipes have been found. This is also kind of mirroring a future SCP we will get to, the Everything universe. This is just a link to plumbing, okay? SCP-015 reacts to tools and aggression. Okay? So this links to the plumbing page. Is this something I want to check out right now? Oh my god, there's so much here! Alright, that's fine. So that's the plumbing page really quick. Let's read this. I think this is directly related to 15 too. I don't think this is just a general plumbing article. This was stupid. It was a stupid idea. Thought up by stupid people in stupid safe offices. Agent 2 looked around slowly, letting his flashlight play over the walls. One of the only items the agents were allowed to carry inside of 015. Agents 6 and Lon were standing just behind him doing the same. The idle chatter and joking had died off about 30 seconds ago, each agent slowly realizing this was no simple little milk run. Go in, find the observation unit, pull the data, and recover the unit. Cake. They laughed, Lon asking if she should find a Mario hat to wear, them being plumbers now and all. Now, however, seeing the dim, cramped tunnel yawning before them, the only joke was them being there at all. 2 stepped forward, slowly fixing his flashlight on the ground. There's a hard mat of pipes, more or less level with the floor. A few small tubes stuck up here and there, snaking around like tree roots, or suddenly turning up in the middle of the floor like a pillar. Thought I read that wrong for a second. The walls, the ceiling, every inch of the original structure was coated in pipes. Some researcher who led them up to the main door said that there wasn't anything left of the old warehouse really, except for the outer shell. He pushed away that whole line of thought, pointedly following the pre-mapped course they'd had to memorize, stepping around a pillar of tightly woven hair, the glossy surface steaming gently. I guess human bone, that's similar to keratin, which would be nails, which is similar to hair, I guess, by proxy. 6 plodded along, taking the rear and keeping a close eye on 2 and Lon. Skittish kids. Lon was jumping at every sound, and 2 looked like he was ready to drop and run if he saw so much as a mouse. Kids. He sniffed in the dark, playing his light forward, smelling heat, sewage, and God knows what else. They needed a good military hand to lead them, but damned if 6 was going to mollycoddle grown adults who were going to jump at shadows. They were going to get this goddamn job done and get the hell back out. Fuck that bullshit SCP slip. They were just security blankets for eggheads and flakes. Semi-sentient, my ass. They just didn't want people denting their pet horrors. He wanted out of this dripping nightmare. He was going to get this mission done with or without them. Lon tiptoed over a thick, thorny mass of pipe, the surface like braided thistles, trying not to whimper. She kept close to 2, keeping the light at her feet so she wouldn't step on anything nasty. She hadn't wanted to seem like the little, weak girl, but she had a terrible fear of tight spaces, and this place was like walking around in someone's slowly closing arteries. Lon shook her head hard, breaking off that whole train of thought. She was the tech. 6 and 2 were the safety. All she had to do was stick by them, pull the data cards out of the MRV, and leave. She tried hard to not look back at the sealed doors in the distance behind them. Only a couple turns to the MRV, a little work, then out. In and out, simple as pie. She ignored a softly throbbing pipe of leathery flesh near her arm, with a focus that was almost physical. They found the MRV after what felt like an hour of walking. It was hard to keep your bearings. The rampant growth of the pipes had cramped some areas down to crawlways and snarled others into random claustrophobic mazes. 6 had nearly gotten stuck twice, and had looked like he was about to murder Lon when she made a comment relating to Winnie the Pooh. "Christopher Robin, is that you?" Lon was talking again, at least. But it was brittle, whistle in front of the graveyard chatter. 2 kept trying to follow the directions, but even with them being less than a week old, they were little more than a guideline. A softly throbbing pipe of leathery flesh brings new meaning to laying pipe, wink wink. Yeah, you pull that one out whenever you offer to change your pipes. Cleaner pipes, or whatever the fuck the saying is. When they'd finally found the MRV, it had been a momentary relief. At least they were at the halfway point. Then they'd looked at it in the light. It had been speared, for lack of a better term. Pinned against a pipe of some kind of dense fabric, a smooth black pipe had docked itself to the camera lens of the observation vehicle. It wasn't smashed or damaged. It just connected, as if it was made for it. It had lifted the little treaded robot nearly a foot off the ground, and it looked like other smaller pipes had started to connect to other open spaces on the vehicle. It just sat there, the wheels slowly turning as the battery died, like a bug on a nest of pins. Some clear, foul-smelling fluid was dripping softly from the camera housing. Well, Tu's voice echoed in the dark. Let me do that one again. Tu's voice echoed in the dark, a monument to pointless speech. They all stood for a few moments, then Lon started to carefully look over the... Okay. Then Lon started to carefully look over the MRV. Six was looking around with an increasing restlessness, starting to mutter quietly. Lon was reaching for the data cards before stopping, looking over it too. Two, since it's grown into the MRV, do you think it counts? What do you mean counts? Two kept the light on her and the machine, a hiss of steam behind him making him flinch. I mean as damaging 015. If I take out the data cards, do you think it will react? Two looked around slowly, shining his light along the floor. A pipe as wide as a car and seemingly made of compacted lint. This seemingly seems like a bad... Oh, shut the fuck up. Both agents turned to stare at Six. He'd stepped up to the MRV, flexing his hands and reaching into his coat with one hand. The other pushed Lon away, none too softly. Move it. Reaction, for fuck's sake. They just say that shit to fuck with people and keep their toys safe. It's a bunch of weird pipes. Beginning to end. There. Maybe it grows or whatever, but the damn thing sure as shit isn't going to take offense to people. I'm grabbing this goddamn thing and we're getting out of here. As he spoke, he stepped forward, flipping open the data port cover. More of the clear, scummy liquid had pooled inside. The other two agents froze, staring in shock a moment, and the building seemed to do so as well. The whispered sounds of venting steam, sliding materials, and soft pinging had all stopped. The heartbeat in Lon's ears sounded like gunshots. Two started forward, reaching for Six. Jesus, Six, what the fuck are... Six ignored him, slipping out the thin data cards. It felt like old nasty water over them. Bad, but they were built to resist it. He slipped them out, then put the bundle in his pocket. He prodded around the edge of the camera lens, shifting the MRV a bit, trying to see if it would work free as Two and Lon backed away, slowly, the silence around them seeming to crush inward. Six gave up, turning away from the helplessly trapped MRV and shining his light on the two white-faced agents. Fucking kids, I don't know how you guys survive. The pipe under him opened with a soft sound of tearing felt. Two and Lon didn't even have time to react before he slid into the widening gap up to his armpits and started screaming horribly. Six's flashlight went tumbling away as the two agents, galvanized by the big man's wretched screaming, ran to help him. A blast of heat and light was pouring up from under the man as the two agents grabbed his arms and looked down. He was submerged in a mass of thickly flowing molten glass. His clothes had already started to smolder and burn, the stench of seared flesh almost more overpowering than the reverberating screams. They pulled and dragged up half of a man with a ruined, seared mass of flesh and cloth where his lower body should have been. They panted, trying to drag him. Lon started to scream along with Six, Two's eyes wide and fixed on some point far away from there. There was a horrible swell of sound rising all around them. Pinging, hissing, clicking, cracking, a pipe to their side bulging alarmingly and causing them to nearly fall. They regained their footing just as a wooden pipe above them burst open in a spray of splinters and clear, stinging dust. Tu and Lan spun away, gagging and choking, Tu spitting out a sudden mass of blood. Glass. It was powdered glass. It poured over Six, muffling his screams, shifting as he struggled a few moments, then stopped, the glass quickly covering his body and spreading. Lan blinked, eyes red and puffy, looking over at Tu. He nodded, and they bolted down the hall, trying to ignore the rising cacophony of sound, sounding like an approaching subway train. A mass of oily, reeking chemicals boiled up behind them, a jetting surge of rose thorns nearly cutting off their forward progress, forcing them to crawl along a bone pipe that was shuddering like an old man in the cold. It's fucking horrifying. They ran, keeping just ahead of whatever it was, hearing splintering explosions and shivering cracks all around them. They finally came to a snarled crawlway, barely a few feet wide. That was the only way forward. Tu dived in, doing a low crawl, trying to will himself forward like a snake, knowing the passage was only about 15 feet long. Easy, wouldn't take any time. Lan hesitated, that tiny black gap looking like a mouth, before a sudden burst of steam behind her sent her shrieking forward, sobbing as she started to crawl, calling after Tu. You can tell I'm getting a little tired. This is a long one, too. We're almost done with this particular offshoot of this one, though, don't worry. Tu ignored the growing vibration all around him, the creaking ping near his head, and slid free of the opening. He turned and saw nothing. No, Lan. No sun bursting. Just the empty hole. He looked around, hands twitching, thinking... I'm reading this so weird. No Lan, no sudden bursting, just the empty hole. He looked around, hands twitching, thinking, then slid back inside, trying to find Lan and physically drag her out. He could hear her, muffled, probably behind the next turn, and his flashlight revealed a solid wall of 3 thick, flaking white pipes. This was it, he was sure of it. The tunnel was right here, and then he heard the pitiful scream behind them. Lan begging, pleading, screaming for him. Tu stared, eyes wide, then slammed his flashlight against the pipe. It burst, sending a reeking corrosive slime over his hand, making him reel back down the crawlway, screaming as it ate into his flesh. He stood outside the opening, holding his steaming hand away from him, trying not to look at the exposed bone. Oh Jesus, Lan, I'm sorry. I'll get help, I'll get someone, just sit tight, I swear. He bolted down the hall, his flashing seeming to dim in time to the rising sound. That last voice line right there, it sounds like a fucking Rick and Morty reference. Lan panted, screaming for Tu, hearing the hard bang on the other side of the pipe and his sudden shrieking retreat. She sobbed, her whole body shaking, and slowly started to work her way backward, crawling on her belly, crying as she muttered some half-remembered prayer. When her feet pushed against a solid wall of pipe, she couldn't even muster a fresh scream. She was trapped, the space not much bigger than a coffin, helpless. She sobbed, face on the ground of warm, fuzzy pipes, and noticed the silence. Aside from her cries, there was nothing. No pinging, no cracks or explosions, nothing. She raised her head in the barely illuminated dark, looking around. She was alive. It was calming down. They'd come for her. Tu would get help. She was getting out of here. She fought back her growing claustrophobia, looking along the walls. She noticed a small gap at the ceiling and started shifting to get a better look, twisting back, and finding only the open end of a pipe. Lan sagged back, closing her eyes, tears leaking down her face. The first sticky drips she simply assumed were the same tears. Then one fell on her mouth, and it was sweet. She opened her eyes and saw a thick, quivering mass of amber goo splatter from the mouth of the pipe, coating her and the floor as it surged out, She coughed, shifting back. It was honey. Honey or something like it. Don't want to criticize the writing because I'm sure a young person wrote it, but it's pretty bad. I can see a few tropes that they're repeating here too. Like earlier they said, goes into a crawl or something like that. Like, yeah, this is clearly somewhat of an amateur writer, but I do appreciate the dedication they put into this. They clearly do have a drive for creative writing, just, they're kind of like me, they're not good at editing. Let's see. Honey or something like it. At least it wasn't molten lead or acid. Then she saw the level rising. It wasn't draining. The pipes were packed too close. She looked around her tiny chamber with horror rising much faster than the honey oozing up her sides. Lon beat on the walls, the floor, the ceiling, trying to block the pipe with her hands, heedless of provoking the thing more, as the honey rose and rose, as cloying sweet as a school-age lover. Her last, gasping breath was sweet and stale with honey and screams. 2 ran, totally lost now, his flashlight dimming by the moment. The sound of cracking and bursting pipes starting to trail off. Maybe it was done, finally. O15 was protective, but it didn't seem vengeful. People had gotten hurt before and gotten out fine. It happened. They'd find a way to get back. They'd find a way to get Lon out too. She might even be out already. Just found another way to get around the blockage. That was probably it. She was out of this stupid place. 6 was a shame. But why had that lunatic opened the case? What the hell had possessed him? He was still musing on this when he tripped over an unseen pipe in the dark around his feet. He pitched forward, yelping a half-surprised, half-terrified bark as he went sprawling. Or he should have went sprawling. Instead, he fell past the floor into a yawning open pit of pipe, the slick, oozing sides plunging down at a sharp angle. He screamed, trying to grab something to stop or slow himself, but the walls were oozing and thick, his downward slide gaining speed, his dimming flashlight showing a seemingly endless tunnel stretching off below him. He slid and slid, a scum of stinking, smooth ooze sticking to his clothes and skin. The tube twisted, banging him against the wall as he followed it, his flashlight jittering and starting to flicker. Panic slammed down like a fist, 2 grabbing the light and trying to keep it still, pleading with it, staring at the lamp bulb as it dimmed more and more. It surged a moment, then flickered out, the darkness pressing to his eyes like a cloth. The agent slipping down faster and faster, screaming until he was hoarse, screaming until his throat bled, screaming even as he passed well beyond the physical boundaries of that tangled web of pipes. Days later, when his skin started to shred off, it was almost welcome. 015 Recovery Report. Agent 2 MIA. Agent 6 MIA. Agent Lon MIA. MRV 889236 status unrecovered. Data deemed non-vital in light of lost staff. 015 classification level review suggested. Alright, that was the Plummy entry for 015. Let's finish off 015. Any personnel acting violently, carrying tools, or attempting to damage or repair 015 in any way will trigger a reaction. Any pipes near the subject will burst, spraying on the subject for several seconds before the flow suddenly stops. Pipes have been reported containing oil, mercury, rats, a species of insect not yet identified, ground glass, seawater, entrails, and molten iron. Pipes will continue to burst around the subject until death or retreat. 015 was cut back to its current structure after attaching to 11 other structures in the area. Currently, 11 personnel have been killed, and 20 more are still missing. Reports have been made of banging and screaming coming from within 015. Holy shit, that was a haunting one, and a very long one too at that. Very cool though, I didn't expect such a deep story with this. Very freaky. I don't know if Euclid is fitting, because it seems like it wants to continuously grow. And somehow the Foundation is able to scissor off parts of it or laser off parts of it, who knows? So clearly they have some semblance of control over it, hence the Euclid. But still, this thing sounds fucking dangerous. It's like a Matrix machine. It wants to acquire as much as it can, and it's really... the only logic that it adheres to is pipes. That's all it is. Pipe logic and murder. And expansion. Alright, 016. Item number 016, Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. 016 is to remain within the confines of a 5x5x5, parentheses 5x5x5, meter room at all times, maintained at a temperature not to exceed 0, parentheses 0 degrees Celsius. 016 itself is to remain in the petri dish in the containment cube at all times unless directed otherwise by level 4 or 05 personnel. Remember, from last stream of this, technically the viewer or concurrent reader of this part, if you're reading in this order, we have 05 clearance. Full documentation of experimentation with 016 must be submitted before and after samples, and duplicates of 016 may be taken. Failure to follow these procedures will result in termination or reassignment as Class D personnel. Termination probably meaning death. Only authorized personnel may be permitted to obtain samples of and experiment with 016 under BCL5 containment conditions. If an outbreak does occur despite following the aforementioned procedures, directive-based personnel are to implement a Code Sigma lockdown and containment plan. Infected personnel are to be terminated on site by security forces wearing standard mission-oriented protective posture, MOPP, anti-biological and anti-chemical equipment. So basically, MTF task force, but upgraded, comes in and terminates whoever's infected. Should the infection not be contained after 48 hours, the on-site nuclear device is to be detonated. Remaining personnel are not to be evacuated under any circumstances. 016 has been shown to survive for up to 6 hours on hard surfaces, and up to several minutes in air. High-intensity ultraviolet light and high concentrations of orthophthalaldehyde solution. Let me get Google Translate on this one, cause holy shit. I am not good at chemistry pronunciations. I'm sure I could look up a narrator or something too, but let's just do it this way. I used to install the Google Translate app on every phone I'd get, and I would get drunk and just type random shit into my phone and make this AI say it for me. So how do you pronounce this?
Orthophthalaldehyde.
Orthophthalaldehyde. Okay. Now we know. High-intensity ultraviolet light and high concentrations of orthophthalaldehyde. High concentrations of orthophthalaldehyde solution have been demonstrated to be effective in disinfecting non-organic surfaces. There, I proved I could pronounce it mid-sentence. Description: 016 is a bloodborne pathogen recovered from a mine worker in blank who injured himself while working in a deep coal seam. Said wound became contaminated with coal dust from the mine, possibly infecting the worker with dormant spores. Over the next several days, 016 proceeded to infect the remaining employees at the mining camp, as well as a CDC crisis team dispatched to deal with the epidemic. Foundation personnel then took over the investigation and terminated all affected personnel. Yeah, once again, the Foundation comes in and just fucking kills everybody. Patient 0 was brought into captivity and the mine shaft was collapsed by an explosive device. 016 has an incubation period ranging from 24 hours to 2 years, depending on the presence and number of other human hosts in the area. So it's kind of like a smart pathogen. First symptoms resemble the common cold and include itchy eyes, runny nose, coughing, and bodily aches. Phase 2 begins in 48 hours and consists of a controlled form of hemorrhagic fever, as the organism causes a small amount of blood to become aspirated in the lungs, creating an aerosol effect. That's fucking horrifying. During Phase 3, the host crashes and bleeds out, bleeding profusely from every bodily orifice, including the nose, tear ducts, anus, skin pores, mouth, urethra, and in case of females, vagina. Blood pressure skyrockets during the final stage. Hosts have been observed projectile vomiting blood to distances of over 5 meters. Holy fuck. Should the host survive this near-total exsanguination, the pathogen will become dormant once more, returning to incubation phase. So it fucking repeats the cycle too if you manage to survive? God. Imagine fucking surviving this shit and it just comes back. What distinguishes 016 from other strains of hemorrhagic fever such as Ebola and Marburg is its unusual response to high stress. So should the subject undergo a high-stress situation, such as a life-threatening crisis, the organism will change its survival tactic from rapid reproduction to the rewriting of the host DNA and stimulation of rapid cell division. Major physiological changes occur within the first 24 hours, with complete bodily reconstruction occurring within 2 weeks' time. You wouldn't survive all of that? I guarantee you wouldn't. Like, for all of that blood to leave your body? And this quoted figure here... Like, this is someone who's been actively in this, and the hemorrhagic projectile vomiting over 5 meters is like the last bit of his life exiting his body. I don't think anything after that you're gonna survive. Especially the DNA reconstruction, that is very foundation. Most hosts do not survive the process due to the heavy demands made on the body. So yes, it's a very smart pathogen. The footnote says, footnote 1, due to their similarities as fatal contagions that stimulate the production of excess organs, a possible link to SCP-1801 is under investigation. Okay. That's another related SCP. An interesting side effect of the transformation is an increased aggressive urge. It is believed that this may be an attempt to maximize the spread of the virus in a manner similar to rabies. On another note, subjects who undergo bodily transformation no longer appear to exhibit 016's hemorrhagic properties. Yeah, I mean, it's fully taken over the unit. It has control over the body, so yeah, it might be a form of spore pathogen. However, subjects infected by transformed hosts will still undergo the normal 016 infection process. So I guess if it obtains a host through DNA modification, it just keeps it, I guess. Addendum, experiment log of 016's transformative properties. Subject D-061. D-class personnel infected by 016. Upon first showing symptoms, subjects' quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. 016 mutated into teratomorphic state, transforming subjects' lungs into gills. So, this pathogen adapts to whatever stress environment it's thrown into, not just optimal circumstances. Subjects survived for 2 more weeks as 016 transformed its limbs into fins, caused its eyes to atrophy, and enhanced its sense of hearing into a cetacean-type echolocation ability. Subject was terminated by draining all water from its quarters, causing it to asphyxiate. Body was subsequently cremated without autopsy. I'm sure their science department for this one was like, yeah, it did what we theorized. Subject D-016-2. D-class personnel infected by 016. Upon first showing symptoms, subjects' quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. 016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing subject to undergo undergo rapid muscular growth and increased bone growth on knuckles. Subject then attempted to escape from confinement by punching through the reinforced steel door. Subject was not successful and died by drowning. So either the pathogen is smart between viral infections, even if they are not cohabitating, interrelated, or it just tries many different methods. Note, same situation, 2 different responses. Interesting, Dr. Blank. Subject D0163, D-class personnel infected by 016. Subject was previously a chemical engineer who poisoned his wife upon discovering his adultery. Jesus fucking Christ. Upon first showing symptoms, subject's quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. 016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow an unusual organ on his chest, consisting of a chamber and two separate tubes. Organ continued to take in water and swell in size until Foundation personnel, realizing what 016 may be attempting, terminated the subject by gunshot. Organ was found to contain several gas sacs filled with acetylene gas and oxygen. So this version was trying to cause an explosion or maybe synthesize a material. I don't know what acetylene gas makes. 0164, D-class personnel infected by 016. Subject was told to concentrate on forming wings. No stress was applied. 016 did not mutate into teratomorphic state. Subject died of exsanguination during Phase 3. Subject 0165, D-class personnel infected by 016. Subject was told to concentrate on forming wings and placed in an acrylic box. I'm not reading that wrong, right? Acrylic. Okay. I had like brain damage for a second. Placed in an acrylic box suspended 305 meters, 1,000 feet, above a mine shaft. A timer was placed outside the box, which subject was told indicated the time to release. 016 mutated into a teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow a tentacle-like organ on his left wrist similar to a spider's spinnerets. Subject extended said organ through one of the box's air holes and extruded a strong silk-like substance, which it then used to secure the box to the cable. Subject was terminated when the countdown reached 0 and the bomb detonated. Holy shit. So it's quite literally a smart pathogen. There's no indication that it feeds off of or learns from the information in the consciousness of the host, but it does adapt extremely well through DNA modification. Okay. That was very interesting. I like transformation ones. Reminds me of Kafka. Alright, there's 017's page. Did we, there wasn't an image on this one, was there? Okay, I was like, I missed the image. So, here's the image for 017. And if you're just joining, I sort of described the images for context for both, this hasn't happened yet, for maybe for the future for hard of hearing or blind viewers. Maybe I add captions to this, or, someone's just listening to this like a podcast. It'll help, figure out exactly what we're looking at here. So, 017, it appears to be just a small black object, maybe the size of a garden gnome. In fact, it kind of almost looks like a garden gnome, in a very nondescript white room. The room does not appear to have very Euclidean geometry. If anything, it seems like the two walls that are visible and the ceiling align properly to contemporary physics. And then whatever's going on with the floor approaching the right-hand wall, kind of either the photo sort of blurs, or it's just something is very odd here. Mr. Potato Head. Yeah, it does kind of look like a Mr. Potato Head as well. If you put the hat on the potato head, it had like the mustache and the feet and a hand or an ear or something. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of looks like a dark Mr. Potato Head. Aside from that, there's not really much I can describe about the image for 017. The floor appears to have some sort of fog or mist, or perhaps the floor is just dirty, but yes, it's a very nondescript, blank white room. The ceiling also has that same dust or dirt or fog. Other than that, yeah, the only real anomaly here is the photo is very blurry, so it's hard to quite make out what's going on. The object in the center, or the being in the center, is very blurry as well, so it's kind of hard to make out what it is, but it does look humanoid in a way. Maybe a child, or, I don't know, an actual real-life gnome? But yes, the room itself does appear to have either some non-Euclidean geometry, or there's just some weird camera trickery going on here. I'm not too sure about the blotches, but it does look more like just some aberrations with the camera, or the room is dirty, or maybe there's some atmospheric effect in the room. So that's the picture for 017. And the caption says, file footage of 017, so presumably the dark spots are maybe just corruption in the video file. SCP-017, item number 017, object class Keter, special containment procedures. 017 is contained in an acrylic glass cage, 100 centimeters by 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters, centrally suspended in a concrete room measuring 6 meters by 6 meters by 4 meters. Attached to the walls, ceiling, and floor of the room are high-intensity arc lamp spotlights pointed directly at the acrylic cage to ensure that 017 is constantly exposed to light from every angle. So maybe it absorbs light frequencies or something? Personnel assigned to the 017 control room are to monitor the functionality of the spotlights in the emergency generator system and call for maintenance immediately upon knowledge of a burnt-out lamp or an issue with the generator. The only circumstance under which personnel are allowed entrance is to replace lamps. Personnel entering the room are required to wear the designated full-body reflective suits and must be cautioned not to step in front of functional spotlights. So it seems like any darkness exposed to this 017 object or thing or person is very dangerous. Description: 017 is a humanoid figure approximately 80 centimeters in height, anatomically similar to a small child but with no discernible identifying features. 017 seems to be composed of a shadowy smoke-like shroud. No attempt to find any object underneath the shroud has been successful, but the possibility has not been ruled out. 017's reaction to shadows cast upon it is immediate and swift. 017 leaps at the object casting the shadow and completely encloses it in its shroud, whereupon it returns to normal size, leaving no trace of the object behind. So it eats anything that generates shadow. That's fucking scary. They probably lost a ton of people just trying to replace lights. Additional notes: personnel with beta clearance or higher should also see document D17-1. Beta clearance or higher? I don't see 017-1, but I guess I'll look it up really quick. I mean, it's a wiki. What good is it to not look stuff up? Hey, I love Castlevania music. We had some unfitting tunes so far, but we also had some good stuff. Alright, 0171. I don't know why they didn't cross-link for this, but that's fine. I don't mind looking it up. Okay, here's 0171 really quick. Oh, I did the full scroll zoomed in. There you go. Okay, 0171, Site 12, Monday morning, 4 o'clock. January 13th, 2025. Okay, this takes place in the future, apparently. Containment area of SCP 52,000? Okay. Researcher Boyd closed the hatch behind him and turned to face the containment vault's occupant. Boyd thought he looked like an old-fashioned tramp, complete with bindle and permanent 5 o'clock shadow. But yesterday he looked like a wino, and the day before, a washed-up boxer. This look wasn't new. Boyd sat down across from the entity and pulled an empty manila envelope out of his jacket. They told me that you wanted to talk. So here's a question. Why do people keep working at the SCP place? You would literally be safer wrestling alligators for a living. From my understanding, a lot of the employees are either lawbreakers, someone who already belongs in the Foundation but acquired clearance, e.g. an SCP, or someone who's just so interested in this that they cannot help it. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you have to be literally insane to get a job at one of these places, and there's so many Foundation sites. I guess after a certain point, it's just like, hey, you're a scientist with like a master's in literally anything? You want to come like, gestures behind himself, you want to come like join my secret government facility full of like dangerous alien shit? No? I'm going to take you anyway. Because I just gave you clearance by saying that. And now you're mandated into working for me. That's probably what it is. They probably just steal scientists. Can't afford to hire people, so they just take them. SCP-52000 pulled up itself up to the table and grinned a toothy smile. Yup? You've all been getting anxious about the Dreamer, right? Perhaps. Boyd turned the envelope over in his hands. What do you know about it? 52000 let out a long sigh and leaned back in his chair. Boy, you eggheads sure get to the point quick. If I'm gonna tell you that, I'll need to let you know how the world got started out. Boyd frowned. 52000 was known for spinning stories to distract from having to answer questions. Usually it was best to play along until it could be coerced into giving a definite answer. Fine, but be quick about it, we don't have all week. 52000 chuckled. You don't know how right you are, Chuck. He pulled a crumbled cigarette from his jacket and placed it in his mouth. Okay, so the first thing that happened was we had the two forces of the universe. Greeks had it on point, you know? It was the music and the dreams. Boyd nodded, drumming his fingers on his thigh beneath the table. So it was they banged, you know, and they made the world. But they didn't fill in all the space, because you can't fill in nothing forever. There's a little bit left over from the days gone by. Boyd nodded and pulled a notebook from his jacket pocket, pretending to take note of what 52000 was saying. So that's why this third rock from Fun has all the craziness pulled to it like that shit's on rails. Is that a reference to Third Rock from the Sun? That's an ancient reference. It's a storage depot for the unknowable. Would have worked like a breeze if you guys hadn't busted up a lock. It was more like a jar. Whatever, Chuck. That's just how you made the smoker's stupid dream witchery true. When those two kids get together, nothing's gonna be able to stop them. Not even flipping things around one more time. I don't understand a word you're saying. Boyd put the notebook away and stood up. If you don't have anything else to add to your story, I think we're done. 52000 held out a hand. Wait, sit down a second. There is something I want to give you. Boyd stopped at the hatch. What? 52000 reached into its own jacket and pulled out the manila envelope. Here's what a few people have said. The envelope was tossed, picked up, examined, and stuffed into a pocket. Boyd exited the hatch, locking it behind him. Briskly, he set off towards the records and information wing for debriefing and transcription of the interview. What a few people have said. Ooh, this is like a deep lore reference here. Okay. Unusual Incidence Unit? Ooh, this is kind of like a newer feature. Alright, initial report. Electronic copy below as per Federal Records Act. UIU File 1976-34. Case File Pluto's Front Door. Summary, possible portal or slate that causes immediate death upon contact. Suspect description capabilities. Name, object of note, black portal. Irregularity, cross-reference, destructive, transport, immobile, locale. So this is almost like a meta entry. Physical description: a cave in North Dakota which has an entrance in the form of a flat, non-reflective black wall. Wall is immobile and does not respond to provocation. Causes immediate death on contact. Sex, height, weight, build, race, hair, eyes, identifying attributes, all no answer. Capabilities: doesn't move or take any initiative. When touched, causes objects and persons to be pulled into it and disappear. Purpose: motive, possibly a trap, naturally occurring anomaly, or a misunderstood aspect of nature. Modus operandi, no answer. Behavior: no behavior. Object: not believed to be living. Okay. Evidence. A. Object: no evidence related to case 1976-34 has been located other than the object itself. I have no idea how this is interrelated to 017, but the image for 1976-34 appears to be just a hole in the ground. Appears to be somewhat of a large hole, but maybe the size of, I don't know, several trucks, I guess. It looks like the beginnings of a quarry or just a pit or something. And if I had to guess, the surrounding landscape appears to be, I don't know, New Zealand or Iceland or something. It's very green, but also extremely rocky. In the distance, 2 people can be seen just outside of camera view. You can't see their heads or faces, but they are wearing what appears to be around fall clothing. Maybe they're surveying for the Foundation, or maybe they are just passers-by that were here that just happen to be part of the photo. Surrounding the hole is just typical rocky structure. I mean, there's some moss growing outside of the hole. There's a ton of pebbles. There's like a small natural pathway leading into what appears to be another recess in the horizon, or I don't know, maybe another hole in the distance. There's some large rocks. I mean, it's a very mundane image. Okay, and Bureau record. Current status: currently noted with light guards. Due to remoteness of location, chances of being discovered are slim. Crimes: not applicable. Sentencing: not applicable. History of UIU action: discovered in 1976 by a U.S. Geological Survey. Turned over to the UIU shortly thereafter and secured since then. Very little action has taken place since then other than the tragic loss of Agent Brom to the object when he accidentally came in contact with it while doing field work at the location. Just wanted to mention too, I missed this. There is something discernible in the distance inside of the hole here. Maybe that's the black wall, or maybe that's just part of the cave wall, who knows. Okay, that was Unusual Incidents Unit, Dr. Wondertainment. Dear Mr. RRRRRRRRR, we regret to inform you that your toy proposal has been rejected for failing to meet the following criteria. Deadly to adults, animals, children, and pre-children. This violates the Wondertainment Super Safety Guarantee. Fun factor after vigorous testing has rated at 0.0. Does not have market viability for future additions or innovations due to being 100% fatal to the consumer. Unpackageable. Thank you for your interest in Dr. Wondertainment, and we hope to see you innovating again soon. So I'm assuming this is sort of a meta SCP, and maybe this is an entry that sort of outlines what the Foundation was trying to accomplish early on. They didn't quite know exactly what to do with this time so early on into researching and whatnot, so they thought, why not monetize a death hole? I don't know, that's my guess. And just some of these notes are further in the investigations, so maybe this is sort of like an SCP Wiki story that's also sort of like, hey, this is how you set up Wiki pages. Shipping order. Oh, this is the factory. Shipping order 10,000, bulk distribution. Payment paid in full, product not delivered. Action, relation with distributor discontinued. Prometheus Labs. Grant request for location of high-value entity in space. Problem, the Prometheus Labs physics lab has proven the existence of an object which could be used to dispose of any type of matter harmlessly at little to no cost past the initial investment to find the object. Solution: in order to locate it, the Prometheus Labs team would need additional funding to dedicate most of their mathematicians to this purpose. So I guess some investigators thought this would be proper for like nuclear waste disposal, etc. Business case: once located, Prometheus Labs will save massively on the disposal of high-risk materials that would otherwise need special handling procedures in order to nullify or put out of sight and mind. Use of funding: currently the only need for funding is the researcher salaries to give them the time to find a more precise location of this object they have only just proven to exist. Further costs can be estimated once the object is located. So again, yeah, like Meta Foundation here, this particular branch of research is dedicating all resources to just finding this disposal place, this object, which would help, clean energy or getting rid of nuclear waste or whatever. So it really goes to show, like, how this affects governments as well. Or even, private corporations dedicated to scientific research. They emphasize this particular research, which is just trying to find the location of this fucking thing, instead of doing actual science. I mean, it is a scientific wonder of the world, but it's also enthralling, I guess. Known issues: it may not be possible to reach and return the object within the lifetime any current employees of the Prometheus Labs Corporation. Okay, the Chaos Insurgency. So I guess this is kind of, definitely some Meta Foundation going on. D0 catalog number SCSS 2024. Document type step compilation. Delta command eyes only. So I guess in lore context we are now we have clearance for Chaos Insurgency Delta command. Dates received 09/18/1955 through 09/18/2024. Operation status open. Forward: this object is to never come into the hands of the insurgency. All steps to secure Site-12, the Foundation location of the object, are critical to maintain. These security procedures are to be kept secret from the SCP Foundation. So if you don't have context, the Chaos Insurgency is almost like its own SCP Foundation that sort of works outside of the Foundation. So, I mean, there's no like strict concrete hierarchy, but there also is. So these guys are sort of lone wolves. Hereafter, we of Delta Command document the steps of the plan as transcribed by the engineer of Chaos Insurgency. Number 1, Step 55/6. Security parameters such as entrenching in the surrounding countryside have been enacted. Anomalous countermeasures have been placed in the uninhabited areas surrounding Site-12, which, due to its remote location, is not accessed or widely known by persons outside the Foundation and Insurgency. Further measures to be taken as the situation around Site-12 changes. Step 2, 24/88. The Foundation appears to be losing control of some of their frontier sites due to the remoteness of their location and the containment difficulties suffered by that organization over the years. Efforts must be taken to preserve the security of Site-12, including by capturing the site intact and handing it over to another group which has more stability, such as the Global Occult Coalition. Yeah, there you go. I guess at some point the SCP Foundation was unable to really contain that site. Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting. You want us to add what to the Act? WG. Report on groups of interest. High. GOTBG 5. Memorandum to Site Director Stone. We currently believe that the research object has been written about in the scripture for various religious groups dealing with paranormal activity. They refer to it unanimously in terminology that describe it as empty, and at other times like a portal to their underworlds or similar theological concepts. Descriptions generally refer to it as all black and hostile. The similarities to the research objects Blech. The similarities to the research objects are obvious. As such, we should take precaution against any word of this entity being held, as it may incur an attack by these organizations. Therefore, we recommend that the current in-construction Site-12 be selected as the location for the entity, due to its remote location and high security. Colonel Ritz, American Secure Containment Initiative. So, I guess this is sort of another authority intervening and saying, the insurgency can assault all they want, but Site-12 should have the object. Are we cool yet? Title, Much Ado About Nothing. Material requirements. The piece itself is singular, having been created by the artist and using a method which has not been disclosed for artistic reasons. It is unique, and the artist does not recommend attempting to replicate it. Abstract, a black star composed of a non-reflective anomalous material. When touched, pulls the user into an undisclosed location in deep space. The person is not recoverable, so viewers are recommended to bring secondary entities if they wish to view the contact-making portion of the piece. This is an art piece which fucking warps someone into deep space? It's a goddamn black star slate tablet thing? Should be displayed behind glass on a white pedestal with a small porthole to allow for direct contact with the object. So it doesn't instantly kill people, in that it kills them, you know, the instant after they cross the threshold. Intent. The piece was created as a commentary on how really and totally alone we are in this universe. You can find yourself in any location out there in the cosmos, and you're not going to catch a ride. You'll be by yourself until you die. That's what awaits us up there. Note, I can't really display this thing anymore. It's cool, but nobody really seems to want to look at it. Gonna store it till we can find a use for it. So the artist commented on it, I guess. Alright, and what was this called? Ellipses? Ellipses. Shadow Child. Aliases. Shadow Person. Chip. Corpo. Nobody. Note. Doesn't seem to be no body. More no thing. Summary. A being repelled by light and made of shadows. Very dangerous. Consumes everything in path. Threat. High. Difficult to avoid all shadows. Interest. Possible attempt to flesh me out. Wait, to what? To fish me out? I think that's fish. Possible attempt to fish me out. Number 1. Follows, tracks, and finds me with alarming regularity. 2. No constant physical form. 3. Does not live. 4. Older than the oldish dirt. This feels like really old SCP wiki entries. I can't explain it. Perhaps is a case of the town not being big enough for 2. This thing, parenthesis S, things, are to be avoided and help sought out to avoid it. Related? I don't think I can open this image, can I? I think I might. Okay, this is the image related in the ellipses. Related? Carrot? Foundation or other collector may be able to keep it at bay or remove it. Thing is very old, may have evolved past destructibility. Location unknown, following me, so it's close to me. Here's the image. The link says SCP-990. I'm not sure what's happening. This image, though, is a presumably man in a, looks like a jacket, sitting at a bench. The bench has a dot, a circle, and four hearts with another dart. Blech, another dot graffitied onto the back of the bench. It appears to be both wood and maybe concrete, just from this strut holding it together. Maybe it's all wood. It does appear to be somewhat of an old bench, and the man wearing a hat with medium hair appears to be sitting on the bench staring at what looks like meteors or asteroids or some sort of volley from space falling on a city in the distance. There's a lot of forest. There's a seemingly highway in the nearby distance. There's a lot of shrubbery. Presumably this is fall time or something because some of them lack leaves. In the very far distance, there's a lot of forestry lining another part of the city in the horizon, and the closer city. I can't really quite identify what cities these would be, but yes, there's clearly city here. And the sky is quite dark and light at the same time. It has almost like a solar shower effect to it. It looks as though light is being generated in the distance, or maybe the type of camera has a filter on it, or just the lens is taking a very exposed photo. The camera is taking a very exposed photo. But yes, the center of the image does have a lot of light erupting from it. Perhaps from the falling meteors or comets, or maybe just it's a little cloudy closer to the inner parts of the city, and farther out, maybe it's like, you know, afternoon or something. So there's the image for that document. Alright, Site 12, Saturday evening, 6 January 19th, 2025, containment area 52,000. How did you get these documents? 52,000 leaned back, shaking his shackles. You know, this isn't what I hoped you would think of them. Boyd didn't respond, choosing instead to tap his pencil against the clipboard and raise a single eyebrow. None of the usual dodging of inquiry cat and mouse would be tolerated today. Man, I'm just trying to help you guys. You know that you're coming up on the number. You've got the child, but you don't understand it. So perhaps the shadow child is related to the shadow wall in the hole? Maybe if they come together, something happens? What's there to understand? It wants to turn the clock back, to suck up everything with the taint of the original flaw, the big glitch that acts as your job security. 52,000 attempted to wipe his nose on his sleeve, but the chains didn't allow enough mobility. His face twisted as he suppressed a sneeze. Boyd narrowed his eyes and made a note. How do you know? Why are you helping us? You could easily be trying to undermine us. I know, because that's the whole reason I exist. I was made specifically for this moment, right here, for you to find me, and for me to help you out when the time came. Who sent you? Every frickin' buddy that doesn't want to die when this thing starts knuckling down, dummy. There's a lot of vested interest in it existing for a lot of people. 52,000 leaned forwards from backwards and began to whisper, and, off the record, you guys need the help. What do they know about the object? 52,000 groaned and attempted to rub its brow. Have you not been listening at all? Look, it's gonna change into something much, much closer to how it originally was. That's the deal. That's what you need to prepare for. When that starts, you'll need to play all your cards right to keep it from going back to how it likes things. Non-existent. So this is sort of like a reality-devouring entity. Presumably the Shadow Child meeting with the Black Star causes like some energy transferal, and it just starts to consume the entire omniverse or something. Boyd's brow creased slightly as he took more notes. So if you're here to help, do you know what to do if it's starting? Your guess is as good as mine, Chuck. From my end, this is all she, he, and they wrote. Hope y'all don't die. Exiting file document 0171, signing off, editor's desk. Logging out 057. So I guess we have 057 clearance now. Alright. That is quite the pathway we went down there. So that was 017 and 0171. Presumably 52,000 is maybe like a time-traveling SCP and maybe like an asset to the Foundation? Who knows, but it all goes back to this thing, huh? Alright, let's move on to 018. Just give me a second, I want to open up a drink really quick. Again, no image on this one. I'm already reading some of this, and I'm surprised they couldn't find an image for this. Whatever, it's probably copyright or something. Okay, 018. Item number 018, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 018 is to be contained in its specialty metal restraint inside of a 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter sealed box lined with heavy synthetic padding. The sealed box is then submerged in the center of the 10 meter by 10 meter by 10 meter polyethylene holding tank. If ON8 is to break free from the holding box, the polyethylene-based goo will slow down kinetic activity enough for proper retrieval by containment personnel. Personnel entering ON8's holding chamber are to wear specialized plating, found inside of ON8 observation, and a breathing apparatus before being lowered into the polyethylene tank. Man, like the parentheses here, found inside of O18 observation, I feel like someone out there can make a really good, not trauma center, theme hospital, but it's SCP. And you just, you make exhibits, you make Foundation containment rooms, and, every single individual SCP has his own unique room, and, sub-rooms that come with it. So, O18 comes with an observation room, etc. I mean, there's already a ton of SCP games out there anyway, but, a different theme. Instead of first person and spooky, scary peanut and plague doctor man, we could toss it up a bit. Let's see. If O18 is loose outside of the polyethylene tank, personnel are advised to secure themselves in a separate room and close doorways or hatches to isolate O18 until containment teams arrive. Description: O18 has the appearance of a Super Ball made by the Whammo Company in 1969. 69, nice. It is 6 centimeters in diameter and colored red. Found when the Blank Company was hired to clean out a warehouse that had Whammo merchandise in it. O18 was noted to be able to bounce with extreme height. At first thought to be a pleasant child's toy, O18 was able to bounce with over 200%, parentheses 200% efficiency. That is, if dropped 1, parentheses 1 meter, it would bounce 2, parentheses 2, then 4, parentheses 4, then 8, parentheses 8, then 16, parentheses 16. So it would fucking accelerate in bouncing, huh? The ball soon became a dangerous projectile, reaching speeds estimated at over 100 kilometers per hour, and damaging property and injuring 5, parentheses 5, in the city of Blank. It came to a rest after several days in the nearby lake of Blank, and was retrieved by SCP personnel. Due to the speed of the object and the total surprise by its victims, no cover-up story was required or initiated. Document 1804, message to 05 single blank. Blank. I hope everything is well. The reason I write to you is because I believe I have found a more effective method for retrieving new or escaped SCP objects. Yes, I realize we haven't had any progress in reverse engineering whatever allows this thing to defy the laws of thermodynamics, but we have come up with a very effective method for integrating one of those new SCP-A5 armor units with this. Just hear me out. We implant it into the bottom of a boot, rig up a little bit of a mechanical device, and ta-da! The suit is now capable of jumping well over a building. I could see how you could utilize that as a jumping apparatus and then use the mechanical device to prevent it from bouncing further, but it's still a bit risky, I think. Also, if the wearer has their foot against something they want dead, well, let's just say it delivers a hell of a kick. All I need is permission to modify one of the pre-existing SCP-A5 units, then you'll be able to actually capture Blank, plus any other escaped SCP objects. Trust me, when have I let you down in the past? Dr. Blank. Document 1806, letter to Dr. Blank. Dr. Blank. Upon assignment, Agent Blank was issued your modified SCP-A5 armor and retrieving SCP Triple Blank. And the results are mixed. Agent Blank was able to place the blank collar onto SCP Triple Blank, chase it through the Amazon, and restrain it by dismemberment. However, due to a malfunction of your little mechanical device, he was launched almost a mile into the air and suffered 2 broken legs, 7 broken limbs, suffered 2 broken legs, 7 broken ribs, a missing arm, and a skull fracture upon hitting the water of Lake Blank. On the way back down, You will fix that before I authorize your armor for common use. Document 1811, message to O5 single blank. Blank, don't worry, it's fixed, but I have some more ideas. If I can be granted the use of some water from SCP-006, SCP triple blank, and possibly SCP triple blank, I can deliver you a set of SCP-A5 armor and an agent that can capture any, if not all, rogue or unattained SCPs. All I'm waiting on is your approval. Okay. I guess this one's more of just foreshadowing for future entries. Sort of like a, this is a neat thing. Here's some science. Alright, we're almost at the 2-hour mark too. I guess we will be going 11 to 20 this time, eh? Or maybe just close to it. We'll see. Okay, here's the whole page for O19. Well, let's zoom in. O19, item number O19, object class Keter. Let's just open up the image first. It looks like there's 2 images. Hold on. My keyboard not working. I tried to control click that. Yeah, we have 2 images here. That is a fucking funny looking picture, but okay. So, image number 1, caption 019, SCP-019. It appears to be an ornate Greek vase, or perhaps Roman vase. Most likely a Greek vase, depicting presumably Greek gods or, just historical figures. It is a classical example of such. It has, like I said, it's very ornate. Its handles are finely crafted so that they are very flowing. Presumably to fit the shape of a hand very easily. The vase itself does seem to be in the style of a Greco-Roman style vase as well. It does appear to be in very good condition, but there appear also to be signs of maybe degradation around the mouth of the vase, just on the outer edges of the mouth. All in all, it does seem like it's a little old, but perhaps has been kept in very good condition. It is a mixture of some deeper tans to browns, and the vast majority of the vase is sort of this coal black, almost deep brown. There's a sheen coming off of it, presumably just from the display case it's in or something, throwing light on it. The characters depicted definitely look like some sort of Greek god or mythological characters. On the far left we have presumably Poseidon, or just a man with a circlet and a trident. His clothes are sort of just a robe or a toque, not a toque, but a very simple gown. Yeah, I would say these characters almost look like philosophers, which, yeah, even more so Greek. There's a naked angel next to the character that looks a little like Poseidon. Outstretched dove wings, presumably on his back. I hate to bring this up, but I can't discern any genitalia. Maybe that's just creative art, or maybe it's there and he's just got a tiny pecker, dude. I'm not trying to comment on that, but yeah, we can see visible nipples on some of the characters. This guy has toned muscles, a belly button. It does appear that he is fully naked. I think in his arm, on his right hand, it appears he's pulling a piece of string or something. And his left arm is just relaxing on his left leg, which is, going into the stoop pose. Next to him is a lady fully clothed in robes. She appears to be, I don't know, touching a spoon, or maybe just pulling the cloth of her clothes with her right arm. She has something on her head which is holding back her hair, and she appears to be sitting either on top of or next to another vase, which is just all golden brown. No real discernible details on it except for maybe the handle. Next to her is another man who appears to also be wearing a circlet. Similarly looks like he is kind of Greek, bearded, etc. He appears to be dancing, and also is either mostly in the nude or just in his underwear. You can see a little bit of cloth falling off of him, but yes, also muscular. You can see some details of the body. At the middle of the vase, we see a banded pattern. At the bottom of the base, there's just some deeper browns again to fit the theme. And it just seems like a standard vase. The patterns at the mouth, patterns at the neck, in U shapes for the neck and the center, but at the top, more of like O shapes, I guess. The interior of the vase is very smooth, that same black texture as the outside. And the patterns on the back that are mostly unseen just seem to be a swirling, almost water-like texture. Okay, there's the first picture. This one, just literally, dude, it looks like a naked cat or a pug or something that got its hair shaved with maximum motion blur in Photoshop turned on it. It has radial blur on. It just looks like a dog or a cat, and somebody is sort of fiddled with the settings. Oh, that's right. The previous image, by the way, the face was sitting on like a plinth, and it had a white background. White background for this dog, cat-looking creature. It clearly has like some grayish blue eyes or something. And I guess we can sort of discern like wrinkles and a forehead and maybe a snout or a mouth or I don't know. But it definitely just looks like a quadrupedal animal that is spinning very fast in this photo. Okay, let's read 019. Special containment procedures. 019 is to be kept on a wide grate in a 3 meter by 3 meter by 4 meter reinforced concrete room installed with an incinerator. Room is to be kept at 0 degrees Celsius when incinerator is not activated. An observation chamber separated by plate glass window is to be used for constant observation of 019, and if when specimens of 0192 are observed, the incinerator is to be activated. So, the SCP object, the urn or the vase or whatever it is, spawns secondaries of it. In the event of an outbreak of 0192, ordinary firearms are successful in terminating individual specimens, although in the case of a swarm-level outbreak, flamethrowers may be more effective. 019 should be kept in a vertical position at all times. So yes, I said the caption for 019 was SCP-019. The caption for 0192 is SCP-0192 specimen. Description. 019 appears to be a very large ceramic vase, 1.8 meters in diameter at the mouth and 2.4 meters high. Style and decoration indicate it was created in classical Greece, although conclusive dating is impossible as the surface is entirely unbreakable by any known means. If a successful method is discovered, 019 is to be destroyed with prejudice. So they don't even want to carbon date it, they just want to destroy it. Periodically, entities emerge from 019. Collectively, these are known as SCP-0192. These entities vary in many aspects, but tend to be small, vaguely humanoid, though they have animaloid features, and extremely hostile. They often choose to attack with teeth or claws. Although fairly delicate, also surprisingly flammable, didn't need to know that, they are reasonably strong and pose a considerate threat in large numbers. So like fucking zombie dog human hominid hybrids. Whatever. When kept at 0 degrees Celsius and totally at rest, entities will emerge from 019 at a rate of approximately one entity per hour. The following traits are known to affect 0192's manifestation rate. Movement of SCP-019. Threat to 019. Extreme temperature highs and lows. Sudden shift in surrounding environment. Introduction of objects or organisms to the inside of 019, known to cause a flood reaction. Traits that may or may not influence 0192's manifestation rate. Presence of human life near 019. Current weather patterns. Specific individuals near 019. Some individuals seem to affect 0192's emergence rate more drastically than others. In addition, tipping or tilting O19 will create a reaction as though it was previously filled with O192 specimens, although viewers looking into O19 from above will merely observe a dark hole. Due to the production rates of O192 when the object is disturbed, measurement of the internal cavity is difficult, but it is suspected to be inconsistent with outside measurements. So it has bigger on the inside, and it's probably a cavity full of these entities, and just tilting it shoots them out. It's the threshold. Addendum, document O192A. O192 notes, as maintained by Dr. Light and Dr. Vo. Double blank, quadruple blank. A date. O192 specimen was removed from containment chamber and kept in reinforced pen, provided with water and live chickens as food. Specimen made quiet, continuous, garbled vocalizations determined to be phonetically similar to ancient Hellenic languages. Although the reason for this is unknown, specimens are still thought to be no more intelligent than animals. It's like a proto-human, I guess, but like very animalistic. The specimen lived for less than 48 hours, and a dissection revealed anatomy consistent on a cellular level with normal biology, but an extremely unstable musculoskeletal structure. Other notable anomalies included an unstable respiratory system, nearly non-existent digestive tract, and virtually no other internal organs. All other captured specimens have followed similar patterns of behavior and demise. So I feel like this is just a big pug joke, because they can barely survive as is. Note, it appears that O192 specimens were not intended to live for meaningful amounts of time outside of O19, Dr. Vo. Double blank, quadruple blank, a date. Containment unit was slightly damaged following prolonged exposure to O192 specimen, missed by the monitoring team because of partial transparency. This has not been noted in O192 before. Monitoring teams will continue to report further anomalies. Double blank, quadruple blank, date. Monitoring teams report some specimens of O192 now appear to be significantly more resistant to incineration than others. It is hypothesized that this is a defense mechanism on the part of O19, so it might learn over time for its offspring. Double blank, quadruple blank, date. Most specimens of O192 are now all but entirely resistant to the effects of the incinerator. Replacement of incinerator with an acid bath is being considered. Evolution of O192 is being studied, and maybe evidence of sentience in O19. Alright, well this thing evolves over time and is clearly some Hellenic period device for creating some offspring. Who knows what it is. Okay, this is fucking not safe for life. Alright, here's a quick run through of 20. And let's look at the image. So this is a picture of SCP-020. It appears to be an overgrowth of a massive amount of various types of mold in some residents. The house appears to be maybe 100 years old at most, I don't know. The mold growth is extremely varied in color. It's very blotched all over the ceiling, and seems to drip down some of the walls, at least the forward-facing wall, which has the overhang leading into the next room, presumably, a small doorway, and also a little bit of the rightmost wall. It seems some of the mold is traveling down the walls. It does seem to somewhat follow a consistent water dripping pattern, however, and for some reason the sconce light in the middle of the room, if that's what it is completely clean and unaffected from all of this mold. This could also be paint or some form of art, but for the most part it does seem like a very hardy mold has taken over the ceiling of this house and per the walls. The mold pattern also does seem to be a little more varied and either less complex or more complex as it reaches the wall. I'm going to assume less complex, but as it reaches the overhang leading into the door frame, it does seem to amalgamate a bit more. So I'm going to assume this is maybe a more recent mold generation, or maybe just, you know, it travels a little easier falling diagonally from the ceiling into that overhang. In the corner appears to be maybe a side of a curtain, or maybe a standing lamp light. And as we travel along the room, it appears there's a wardrobe or maybe a desk with a cast iron or steel or some form of metal cooking pot, which has two handles and two handles at the side and a large handle at the top for the lid. In the exterior room, or whatever this is, it appears there is a clock on the wall about level height with where this mold is, and it appears the walls in the further room, which I'm going to assume is the kitchen, just looking at this large white object, presumably the fridge. It looks like this room either has a camouflage tapestry covering it, or perhaps the mold has spread quite a lot in that room. But what tells me it might be camo, there's light peeking through, or some form of discoloration that is lighter, in some areas lower in the room. It's hard to see. But presumably there's some sort of camo or forestry going through here, or some very dilapidated architecture. And yes, in the bottom right corner of that next room, if that is what it is, appears to be a fridge and maybe a freezer storage unit or something else. Maybe a reflection with some glass. And some undiscernible red object that looks like a Raggedy Ann doll or Raggedy Andy. Alright, let's read this. O20. SCP-O20, item number O20, object class Keter. Special containment procedures. Samples of O20 are stored in a series of sealed cultivation chambers inside a sealed containment room at Biological Research Area 12, which is accessible only via airlock. Nutrients are administered via automated robotic systems, as the cultivation chamber must remain sealed at all times. And the caption to the image, by the way, is O20 growths in a civilian residence. So indeed, it is a house and, like, something growing. Hermetically sealed video surveillance cameras must be installed within the containment room and must be checked daily for integrity. Any personnel entering the containment room must wear biosafety level 5 equipment, including rebreathers, and undergo full antifungal disinfection upon exiting. So it is a type of fungus. Description: O20 is a fast-spreading fungal organism that is capable of affecting the senses and behavior of living creatures, including humans. Samples of O20 exhibit an unknown effect that renders them effectively invisible to direct observation, even when under a microscope. O20 is only visible to humans when viewed through photographic or video surveillance. Ugh! Gross. Once O20 forms a colony, usually within a human residence, it will produce spores that affect the behavior of humans around it. Affected subjects will increase the heat and humidity within their homes to create an environment more suitable to the growth of O20. So it's kind of like a cognito virus, sort of like the blood virus we had before, but it affects the behavior of the dormant subjects. Affected subjects also become more sociable in many cases, and often invite acquaintances to their homes to further spread the organism. As the spores and mold colonies are invisible to affected subjects, the mold may sometimes grow directly on living subjects. As the spores and colonies within a home approach critical concentration, the health of affected human subjects will rapidly deteriorate, resulting in death. Further spread of the mold may occur as the bodies of any deceased subjects are encountered by emergency responders and healthcare agents, as well as transportation of the bodies to local morgues. O20 was first encountered in Redacted, where an undercover SCP agent noted dramatic personality changes in personnel working at the local hospital. Upon investigation by a containment team, it was discovered that almost triple blank civilians had been infected, as well as a majority of the town. The civilian population was terminated. God. Hundreds of people killed over this, and the town incinerated under cover of a local flash forest fire. To date, over 12 outbreaks of O20 have been reported. Investigations are currently underway to determine the source of these outbreaks and possible preventative measures. Addendum O21. Excerpts from the audio-video mission. Recorders of Mobile Task Force ETA-10 See No Evil during the initial containment of O20 on Redacted. T2 lead. Team 2 moving... T2 lead. Team 2 moving to the Red House. T2 con. Copy. UAV-1 is picking up 1 heat signature. Ellipses. T2 lead. Team 2 in place, ready to expletive. T2-2. Door opening. At this point, a civilian woman appeared in the doorway, holding a kitchen knife. Video surveillance showed that nearly 2/3 of her face was covered by mold growths. Ugh. Civilian woman. Well, hello there, gentlemen. Care to take a breather inside? T2 lead. On the ground. Drop the weapon. Civilian woman. Don't be silly. Come on in and stay a while. T2 lead. Stop where you are. Drop the weapon. Civilian woman. We just want to have some guests. Please. Come in. T2-2. Drop the expletive weapon. It is assumed that at this point, the infected civilian noticed T2-4 carrying a primed incendiary weapon and lunged forward at the team members with the knife. Civilian woman, data expunged. T2 lead, open fire, gunfire, screaming. God, that's fucking disgusting. Can only be detected with photography or video cameras. Oh, I hate the idea of that. Well, that was our session for today, and I'm going to do a random one really quick to finish it off, because I forgot to do it at the beginning. Not that it matters when I do it, but hey, I like doing randoms too, because it gives us extra content to check out, and we don't have to do it all one-to-one. There's no way I'm going to catch up to 3017 anytime soon. Okay, so the tab says unfortunate.jpg. Nice. Okay, SCP-3017. I did just scroll through it, but let me scroll again really quick. So here's the first image. Appears to just be a young man, maybe in his early to mid, maybe even possibly late 20s, early 30s. He has somewhat short to medium length, longer hair, combed to one side and somewhat messy. His eyes are blanked out. He appears to be in a just tan prison uniform, standing up against a concrete wall. This is presumably for a prison photograph, or maybe this is just a standard photo. He has a white undershirt, white male, brown to blondish, dirty blondish hair, I guess. No discernible features, just somewhat of a bulbous nose, small pursed mouth, and somewhat of a smirk. He has a slight blemish on his upper lip. Clear skin, no discernible major wrinkles on his face. Somewhat small, bowed inward ears towards the back of his head. His cheeks are somewhat in a unactivated phase, I guess we could say. He's just sort of humored to be there, it looks like. And a little bit of definition on his chin. It looks like there's maybe some dead skin cells, or maybe it's just the trick of the light with the photography. How many images do we have here? Just 2, it looks like, so we'll do the images right away. And just to clarify really quick, the caption for the first image says, mugshot of Fraser Melbrook following a 20 blank 4 arrest. So, 2000 blank 4. Second image, titled House Fire, quite literally appears to be somewhat of a grainy photo of a house fire, maybe taken on an earlier grade smartphone, or maybe this is a still image from a video. Either way, it appears to be a typical residential house, 2-story, maybe I mean, it would be hard to place a price on this, but in Milwaukee, this would be like a $350K house if it was fully furnished and everything was up to date. It appears maybe there's like a small offshoot garage, or maybe it's just quite a large house. There's a massive fire erupting from the roof of the sub-house unit, presumably the garage unit or addition to the house, whatever this could be. Maybe it's a sunroom. The house is licking into the larger part of the house and trailing up to the secondary roof, the large part of the house. Part of the fire can be seen reflected in the second-story double window. And it appears there's another window sort of at the smaller housing unit, whatever this is, sunroom, garage, or what have you. There's also a large eruption of fire at the base of the roof, right where that window is. Perhaps maybe some explosive material is happening here, or it's just a very active flame, because it does appear that fire in particular is a little more agitated than the rest of the fire. It is quite a large fire, though. You can make out the outlines of 2 roofs, bare minimum, and a gutter system on the smaller roof, as well as some difference in paint or maybe shadows. This is definitely a panel-lined house. I can't quite tell with the forward-facing part of the house. Maybe that's brick on this little visible area here. And then there's just some shrubbery in the dark, a lot of smoke erupting from the fire illuminating the vast majority of the scene. And the edges sort of fade into darkness in the vignette. There's either some film grain causing some weird distortions, or there's some odd anomaly faintly detectable in the photo's light, and can just barely make out what appears to be 2 small lights, or maybe the eyes of an animal being reflected via a flash or the fire or something. Also in the bottom right is another light, or perhaps another one of those animals, or maybe fire. And then further in the left-hand distance, either just minute details of the house sort of being drawn by the light, or just something wholly undetectable. Yeah, something else out in the distance on the right-hand side. Maybe just, camera grain. Okay. And the caption for that image, let's see, is still frame from footage of incident I-3017-1N. Okay, let's read this one before we end it off tonight. So, SCP-3017, item number 3017, object class Euclid strike-through, neutralized. Special containment procedures updated. Fraser Melbrook's cremated remains have been scattered over single blank locations, all of which are under automated surveillance. The locations are stored in individual files under separate subdirectories under level single blank clearance. Any attempt to access any of the files pertaining to the location of the remains, intentionally or otherwise, will automatically alert RISA administrators. All personnel attempting to access these files are to be administered Class A amnestics and removed from active duty for a period of no less than 2 weeks. So this is kind of a common thing the Foundation does later on. Class A amnestics, or just amnestics in general, rather than termination, just to remove knowledge of whatever events they find necessary. If symptoms of 3017A appear in any Foundation personnel and persist following administration of Class A amnestics, 3017 will be redesignated as Euclid, new procedures will be drafted, and all affected personnel will be given further amnestic therapy on a case-by-case basis. Symptoms of exposure may include repeated or prolonged access to this file and related files, attempting to access pertaining to the location of Melbrook's remains, attempting to access the remains themselves, creation of additional material related to 3017, and any attempt to violate these containment procedures. Okay, archived special containment procedures void as of 1/1/2017. 20-7. Special Containment Procedures. 3017 is contained in a standard humanoid containment cell at Area 55. The entrance to the cell is to be guarded at all times by no fewer than 3 armed security personnel. Visual and audio feeds of the inside of the cell are to be monitored at all times by no fewer than 3 security personnel. Any malfunctioning cameras or microphones must be repaired without delay. Personnel interacting with 3017 are not to do so continuously for more than 1 hour without Level 4 approval. Any personnel exhibiting violent or obsessive behavior towards 3017 are to be administered a Class A amnestic. 3017-1 instances are to remain under surveillance by clandestine assets. Any attempts by 3017-1 to raise awareness of 3017's containment or of the containment of other 3017-1 instances shall be dealt with via standard information suppression techniques to prevent any security breach. Individual instances may be contained for the purposes of extracting information from 3017 or to discourage lack of cooperation. No additional privileges are to be given to 3017 for good behavior. Lack of cooperation by 3017 may be dealt with by withholding of rations for no more than 24 hours, removal of basic amenities, sleep deprivation, corporal punishment, containment of 3017-1 instances, and threat of harm of 3017-1 instances. Description void as of 1/120-7. 3017 is Fraser Melbrook, a male aged 25 years old at the time of initial containment. 3017 is believed to have extensive ties to several anomalous groups, is suspected of having committed multiple robberies, assaults, and murders. 3017 has been arrested 23 times but has never been formally indicted, most likely due to its secondary effect. 3017's primary anomaly affects all subjects coming in. 3017's primary anomaly affects all subjects coming in close proximity. Subjects who make direct visual contact or engage in conversations with 3017 have a 1 to 5% chance per minute of becoming spontaneously aware of 3017's criminal disposition. Subjects who do not gain knowledge of 3017's specific crimes, only a general understanding. Subjects do not gain knowledge of 3017's specific crimes, only a general understanding of its violent nature. Subjects exposed to 3017 for periods greater than 1 hour may begin to experience a compulsion to ensure 3017 remains incarcerated. Further exposure can result in obsessive or violent behavior, though this is easily remedied with amnestic treatment. So he has like an aura of violence, or an aura of, himself needing to be contained. 3017's secondary anomaly manifests in its ability to evade extended incarceration. This effect is believed to be voluntary, but the exact mechanism for the phenomenon is unknown. 3017's secondary anomaly has been a severe barrier to containment, but can be mitigated with the use of 3017-1. 3017-1 is the collective designation for Strike-Through 12, Strike-Through 13, 14 people who are entirely immune from 3017's primary effect and are unable to be convinced of 3017's criminal activity. A table of all currently known 3017-1 instances can be found under Addendum 3017-1A. The threat of incarceration, harm, or death of 3017-1 instances greatly reduces the effects of 3017's secondary anomaly. The use of 3017-1 for this purpose has been shown to be far more effective than conventional disciplinary action, and serves the dual function of being an incentive for 3017 to divulge sensitive information. Strike-through, however, conventional means are generally preferred due to logistical constraints. On strike-through, the use of 3017-1 is the preferred method for obtaining information from 3017. So it seems they went back on that. These immune to 3017 units are definitely preferred now. Addendum 3017-1A. The following is a list of known 3017-1 instances and their relation to 3017. 3017-1-1, Vivian Melbrook Fortuin, age 48. Here, let me read the table. Designation, name, age, and relation to 3017. 3017-1-1, Vivian Melbrook Fortuin, 48 years old, mother. 3017-1-2, Beck Melbrook Sr., 49, father. 3017-1-3, Zara Melbrook, 18, sister. 3017-1-4, Beck Melbrook Jr., 16, brother. 3017-1-5, Max Melbrook, 11, brother. 3017-1-6, Tabitha Fortuin, 78, maternal grandmother. 3017-1-7, Nadia Alvin, 24, fiancé. 3017-1-8, Eugene Stein, 26, former classmate. 3017-1-9, I say 1-8 last time, I meant to say that. 1-9, Anna Meyer, 25, former classmate. 3017-1-10, Victor Abbott, 27, former romantic partner. 3017-1-11, Max Friedrich, 35, neighbor. 3017-1-12, Caitlin Adelardi, 22, former romantic partner. Addendum. Mitigation of 3017's secondary effect. Following repeated attempts at containment breach by 3017, Dr. Paris Kieran and researcher Kathleen Ryland began an investigation of subjects' previous incarcerations. It was discovered that shortly prior to 3017's 22nd arrest and longest period of police incarceration, 3017-104 was diagnosed with leukemia. So, Beck Melbrook brother, 16 years old, the brother. A proposal was approved to investigate how 3017's perception of 3017-1's well-being could be used to mitigate its secondary effect. The following interview was conducted by researcher Ryland on 1/29/20/6. Begin log. Ryland. Good afternoon, 3017. How are you feeling? 3017. I feel like the time Beck caught me in the eye when we were playing catch. Ryland. So, you've been giving the guards a hard time lately? 3017. No, I haven't. Look, if this is about the other day, I already told you that I didn't do anything. Ryland. You were trying to escape. 3017. I was walking to the bathroom and he tackled me. Ryland. I would have done the same if you were trying to attack me. 3017. I barely looked at him. Are we seriously getting into this again? Ryland. You know what? You're right. Dr. Kieran already went through this with you. 3017. Yeah. I've had enough of her to last me a lifetime. Ryland. Laughs. Haven't we all? 3017. Jeez. Ryland. Well, you mentioned your brother just a moment ago. He finished his treatment just this past June, right? 3017. Yeah, he did. Why? Did something happen to Beck? Ryland. No, not as far as we know. 3017. Then what are you getting at? Well, Ryland. Well, we've received word that your grandmother has been diagnosed with lung cancer. 3017. What? Ryland. She went to a clinic about 3017. Yeah, I heard you. Ryland. I understand that you're upset, but we... 3017. Yes, I am upset. I'm goddamn upset. I'm upset that you guys are keeping me here when something like this happens. I need to be there for her. I need to be there for my family. Ryland. I'm sorry, but we can't let you go. You need to understand this. 3017. No, you need to understand. Ryland, stop. This is important and I need you to listen, okay? 3017. Fine. Ryland. Right now, the doctors think they can treat it. If all goes well, she'll be fine, but in order for that to happen, we need you to cooperate. 3017. What do you mean? Ryland. What I mean is, look, it wasn't my decision, but if you keep trying to pull all the stuff with the guards, we won't let her get treatment. 3017. But that's crazy, you can't do that. Ryland. It wasn't my call, I'm sorry. 3017. No, you can't do this. Ryland. This is just what they decided to do, and I can't change that. I get it, you're upset and you're worried, but right now, the best thing you can do for her is cooperate with us, alright? 3017, but I can't just stay here. I need to be with her. Rylan, you can't stop now. You can't right now. I'm sorry. I know you care about her, but if you want to help her, you have to stop all these escape attempts. 3017, Can you at least keep me updated on how she's doing? Rylan, I'll try. 3017, alright then, I'll do what you want. End log. So they've kind of made a deal with him to stop escaping because he has such a connection to his family. "3017 has not attempted to breach containment in the 4 months following this recommendation. Currently, monitoring of 3017-106 has shown no major chronic health problems." Is that the grandma? As Tabitha Fortuine, maternal grandmother. So I think they just straight up lied to him. No major chronic health problems. So yeah, I would think so. Or either that, or they didn't lie and she got proper treatment, I guess. Addendum Memorandum O21920-6. Given 3017's known and suspected ties to anomalous groups, the subject is a potential gold mine of information. Thus far, however, all conventional methods of interrogation have failed to yield any useful intelligence. With so much valuable intelligence to be obtained, we must look into alternative means of getting the subject to divulge the information we need. 3017's secondary effect has been shown to be mitigated by the belief that 3017-1 instances are in some form of danger. The secondary effect is voluntary on 3017's part. It is mitigated when 3017 does not want to escape or is more concerned with other matters. Thus, its concern for those it considers close outweighs its desire to escape. Our psychological evaluation of 3017 highlights this attribute as a dominant part of its personality. Again, we had this earlier, mind subjugating matter. The possible application here is obvious. 3017-1 may be just the incentive we need to finally extract the information we need. By containing individual instances of 3017-1 and convincing 3017 they are in danger, I believe the subject will be far more cooperative. 3071 are classified as anomalous, and such it is within our jurisdiction to contain them if need be. I'm sure the designation 3017-1 just refers to all of his family at large, not just instances of whoever 3017-1 is. Vivian Melbrook Fortuine. Yeah, I don't think it's duplicates of his mom. I think it just means family members. I propose that we contain the individual instances on a temporary basis if needed, and then administer an amnestic and release them. At the expense of few resources, we may soon have access to large amounts of intelligence. Dr. Kieran. So yeah, this guy's probably been attempted to be contained in many different facilities, and as such, because he was able to escape with his willpower so many times, he probably has access to a lot of knowledge. Proposal approved by Area 55 Director Blank, O221-20-6. Interview Int 3017-13. On 3/13-20-6, 3017-107 was placed into containment at Area 55 in order to evaluate the efficacy of using 3017-1 instances to gather intelligence from 3017. The following interview was conducted by Dr. Kieran, while 3017-107 was contained on site. So that was Grandma. Begin log. Kieran, 3017, do you believe you are ready to cooperate with us and provide us with the information we have been requesting regarding Redacted? 3017, for the love of God, I keep telling you I don't know what that is. Kieran, very well. In that case, please look at this screen and tell me what you see. 3017 looks at the screen of Dr. Kieran's computer, which displays the live feed of 3017-107's containment cell. Subject displays shock. So they've contained his grandma in a facility at Area 55. 3017, why the hell are you showing me this? Kieran, answer my question, 3017. What do you see on the screen? Oh, I guess 107 is his girlfriend. Never mind. 3017, I see that you sick fucks are trying to make me think my girlfriend's been kidnapped. You're a real piece of work. Kieran, 3017-107 has been detained and placed in our custody now. Subject stands up and slams its hands on the table. 3017, why? My brother and my grandma might both be dying, and you're just going to keep me here and kidnap Nadia? You're all goddamn psychos. Kieran, sit down or I'll have the guards remove you back to your cell. Subject sits back down. Kieran, that's better. Now, you have refused to provide the information we've been requesting over the course of your containment. We need that information and we need it now. That is why we've decided to see if you would be more cooperative with a new incentive. 3017, you can't do this to her. She hasn't done anything. Please, I swear to God, she'll go insane in here. She'll die. I can't let you do this. Kieran, if you give us what we want, then 3017-17. 3017, she has a name. Are you really that... Kieran, if you give us the information we need, she will not be harmed. She will be released from our custody and sent home with no memory of this. 3017, but I already said, I don't know anything. How could I tell you what I don't fucking know? Kieran, we both know that isn't true. 3017, to hell it isn't. Besides, how do you expect me to trust you to let her go? You've been keeping me here for God knows how long, and for what? Zilch. And now you want me to do the same to her? How do I know that you won't? Kieran, 3017, do you want to find out what will happen to her if you continue to be uncooperative? 3017 covers its face with its hands and is silent for several seconds before responding. 3017, I guess I'll try to tell you something. I don't know much about it, but I'll try. Subsequent dialogue classified. End log. Extensive information regarding several groups, particularly redacted, was obtained during this interview. 3017-107 was subsequent amnesticized and released. Addendum Memorandum O320-20-6. In the course of looking over the information provided by 3017 during the interview on O313-20-6, I have found a great deal of inconsistency. In particular, redacted really doesn't make sense when considering redacted. Furthermore, much of his story doesn't match up at all from information we have obtained from both field agents and from members of redacted. I seriously doubt that 3017's information can be considered reliable. I don't know if it just doesn't know anything or if it's still determined to keep information away from us, but I expect the latter right now. Researcher Ryland. Interview Int 3017-24 by 0416-20-6, 3017-105, 08, 10, and 12 had all been detained as further incentive for 3017's cooperation. On 0416-20-6, Dr. Kieran was given special clearance to conduct the following interview. Prior to the interview, 3017-110 was sedated and removed to a separate cell. Interview was conducted with 3017 in the adjacent observation room. Who's 10? 10 is the former romantic partner Victor Abbott, age 27. Okay. Begin log. Kieran, okay, let's start. 3017, I'm going to show you an object, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think it is. 3017, fine, let's get this over with. Dr. Kieran places a spent hollow point bullet on the table. 3017, I have no idea what that is. Kieran, alright. Now I'm going to show you another object, and I want you to do the same thing. Dr. Kieran places an unspent hollow point bullet on the table, followed by several seconds of silence. 3017. That's a bullet. Kieran, very good. Now, do you have a better idea as to what the first object was? 3017. It's a bullet too, then, is it? I don't know. Kieran, yes, it's a bullet. Why do you think it's shaped like that? Several seconds of silence. Kieran. Okay, how about I tell you then? These are hollow points. The reason that bullet is shaped like that is because it was fired through something. Dr. Kieran raises from her chair and activates the lights in the adjacent cell. Kieran, and in that room is what I fired it through. Take a look. 3017, unintelligible. Kieran, what was that? 3017 stands up. 3017, I'll kill you, you fucking bastard. Dr. Kieran quickly produces a pistol and aims it at 3017. Several seconds of silence. Kieran, sit back down, now. 3017 sits back down. 3017 sits back down, is now breathing heavily. Kieran, this is what happens when you lie to us. 3017, please. Kieran, the more you lie, the worse this is going to get for you. Now, are you going to give us the information we need or not? 3017, I don't know anything. I'm sorry, please. Kieran, that's bullshit and we both know it. 3017, are you going to shoot me or not? Dr. Kieran fires the pistol at the acrylic glass observation window. Kieran, we're sick of your games. Start telling the truth or I'll shoot him again. 3017, I can't... Why would you... Oh, God. 3017 begins crying for several minutes. Interview terminated. End log. So they shot his former lover with a hollow point bullet. 3017, 110, and 3017 were uninjured and returned to containment. Okay, so it was like a bluff. Probably a blank or something. 3017, 1 G35A. On 0429 20 blank 6, researcher Ryland submitted the following proposal to Area 55 Director blank. Level 3 clearance required. Access granted. After looking further into our documentation, I've been shocked to see that practically no concrete evidence of SCP-3017's criminal history, anomalous or otherwise, actually exists. I could find no physical evidence, no photographic evidence, and no video or audio recordings. All that we have is witness testimony, but given 3017's mind-affecting properties, I do not believe any of this can be considered valid. I'm becoming more and more convinced that my earlier conclusion regarding 3017 was wrong. I think it honestly does not know the information we've been asking and has been making up information so as to protect 3017-1. Not only do I believe further efforts to gain information for 3017 are useless, I am also convinced that our current attempts may be a violation of ethics protocols. You fucking think? You kidnapped his family! Right now, 3017 is still convinced that its grandmother has cancer and that we shot its ex-boyfriend dead right in front of it. On that note, how were Dr. Kieran's actions from 2 weeks ago not grounds for a reassignment at the very least? Oh, you know the Foundation, they're always wiling out. I am formally requesting that all 3017-1 instances be released until we can do more thorough investigation. This has gone too far. At the recommendation of Dr. Kieran, researcher Ryland has been redesignated 3017-113 and placed under containment. Holy fuck. Yeah, they went too far. They became part of the experiment. Incident I-3017-015-17-20 blank 6. On 0517-20 blank 6, 3017-113 escaped from her cell with the assistance of Security Officer Rudolph Caridad. 3017-113 proceeded to manually trigger Area 55's breach alarm, while Security Officer Caridad directed security officers stationed at 3017 cell to seek shelter elsewhere in the facility. 3017-113 then proceeded to enter 3017 cell and assist the subject in escaping containment. Security personnel were unable to apprehend 3017 or 3017-113, and both are believed to have escaped the facility. Security Officer Caridad was redesignated 3017-114 and placed under containment. Dr. Kieran was reported missing following this event, but reappeared at Area 55 on 0525-20 blank 6. So yeah, this was such a massive cluster fuck-up that people involved in the interviews for this SCP were mandated to be part of it. Holy fuck. Incident I-3017-1N. On 0523-20 20-6 at approximately 0300 local time, a fire began at 3017's previous residence. The fire quickly spread, destroying the residence and 2 adjacent houses. 3017-101 through 07 and 11 perished in the fire, along with 2 civilians. The cause of the fire, strike-through, is under investigation. On strike-through was found to be arson. Incident I-3017-EX 3017 was found dead on 05/24/20-6. Subject is believed to have jumped from a bridge approximately 1 kilometer from its previous residence. 3017-113 was recovered nearby and recontained without resistance. The following interview was conducted with 3017-113 by Dr. Kieran 2 days later. Begin log. Kieran, alright, you're aware of all the procedure here, so I'll just get right. 3017-113. Don't try to act like this is a normal thing, Paris. We both know it's not. If you're asking about the breach, Rudy will be able to fill you in on everything. He did all the work there. Kieran, I'm not interested in the breach. I'm interested in what transpired with you in 3017 after you managed to escape. 3017-113. We hitchhiked to Redacted. His house burned down. He jumped into traffic. I don't want to talk about this. Kieran, we need specifics. 3017-113. Okay, fine. Specify what you want to know. Kieran. Alright, tell us about when you arrived in Redacted. 3017-113. Well, we got to the outskirts at something like 3 or 4 in the morning. The fire had already started by then, because we could see the light of it. Fraser was leading the way, just getting more and more panicked, and I realized that the fire was around where his house was. He broke into a sprint, and I lost him for a bit, but I just followed the flames, and I found him staring at a disaster area. Kieran, while you were in the vicinity, did you see anyone suspicious? Anyone at all? 3017-113. We only saw the firefighters. In before the Foundation goes out and kills all the firefighters because they witnessed this fire? Kieran, are you absolutely sure? 3017-113. Yes, I'm pretty damn sure. The house was nearly coming down when I got there, so if someone set the fire, they were probably long gone at that point. Kieran. And how was 3017 acting at that point? 3017-113. What the hell do you expect? I went to try and hold him back because I thought he was going to try and go in, but it started collapsing and he just fell to his knees. I think he knew it was too late at that point. He cried for so long and I just tried to get him away from the fire at that point. Kieran, how long would you say you remained there? 3017-113. I have no clue. I managed to get him to go a little further down the street, but after that he didn't move until the sun had come up. Kieran, how would you describe 3017's behavior at that point? 3017-113. What do you think? Kieran, please just describe it for me. 3017-113. He was scared and just broken. I got him away from that street, and then he started muttering to himself, I don't want to die. And I tried to tell him that he was safe, but he was just so broken. I've never seen anyone that shattered. 3017-113 pauses and wipes her face. 3017-113. God damn, I can't do this. Kieran, it's alright. Can you continue? 3017-113. I took him to the motel a little bit close by and bought a room with some of the cash Rudy gave us. When he was calm enough, I left him there to see if I could get any info, see if anyone got out, but God, I just wanted to lie to him. Just tell him something that didn't hurt him, but they were... I'm going to refer to her as 113 from now on. It's getting tedious saying the full thing. 113 covers her face with her hands. Kieran. Kathy, do you want to take a break for now? We can... 113. No, you're going to hear all of this right now. 113 breathes heavily for several seconds. 113. You didn't see him. You didn't get to see any of it, but I did. He already went to sleep that night, and when I woke up the next morning, he was gone. He was already dead. Kieran, do you have any idea, any at all, as to why 3017 decided to end its own life? 113. Gee, I don't know. He spent 5 days trying to get back home and see his family, only to watch them die in a fire. Maybe that was the reason? Or maybe it was because he finally thought for a second that they were going to be okay, that for once they'd all have their lives back. Is that the reason? Is that reason enough? Is it? 113 takes a deep breath. 113, I told him about all those things we lied to him about. I told him how long I'd been lying to him and he didn't care. He wasn't mad. He was so happy. He was so ready to see those people. He was just so happy. He just wanted to live for them. He wanted to live so much. He didn't want to die. Kieran, I see. 113. He was so scared. He didn't want to die. I don't believe it for a second. Unlock. 3017 has been redesignated as neutralized. Description updated. 3017 was the designation for Fraser Melbrook, a male aged 27 years old at the time of his death. Subjects who made direct visual contact or engaged in conversation with Melbrook had a 1 to 5% chance per minute of developing 3017A. 3017A refers to a cognitohazardous effect which resulted in subjects developing a compulsion to have 3017 in their custody. Subjects affected by 3017A perceived 3017 as a dangerous criminal with an unusually effective ability to escape incarceration. 3017A often resulted in subjects developing an obsession with Melbrook and resisting any attempt to remove them from his vicinity. Treatment with Class A amnestics was shown to alleviate 3017A. However, symptoms would return immediately upon subsequent exposure to 3017. 3017-1 was the collective designation for 12 close members of Melbrook's inner circle and 2 Foundation personnel who were immune to the effects of 3017A. Somehow I doubt that, since they tried to take him into custody of their own volition. As the effects of 3017A ceased upon Melbrook's death, the remaining living instances of 3017-1 are no longer considered anomalous. 3017-108 through 10 and 12 have been released back into the general population following amnestic treatment. Researcher Rylan and Security Officer Caridad, previously 3017-1, 13, and 14, have been reinstated into Foundation employment. Reports of Melbrook's criminal history, as well as his supposed ties to anomalous groups, are unsubstantiated. All investigations into criminal and anomalous ties have been closed. You have been viewing this document for 2369 and counting seconds. Please do not leave this document open for an extended period of time. If you have finished viewing this document, please close this window now. So I guess even post-death, they're worried about his effects taking over. If an hour goes on, I'm going to develop 3017A. Alright, well, yeah, we did our random and we did, the sequential read-through. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me tonight on SCP Foundation Wiki read-along. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this stream. I really enjoyed reading it tonight. And like I said earlier, I'm fucking exhausted. But this was like the perfect stream ender. I thought I might want to do something again later tonight, but I am just so fucking beat. So I'm glad I put out a second part of this. It was super fun. And it was a good read-along. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And yeah, I mean, it's my treat to read it to you. So even more so, I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, so again, thank you very much for watching. And I hope this was, it hit the right spot for your creepy, spooky, scary October Halloween, deep night, ooh, spooky vibes. And yeah. So again, that's going to do it for me tonight. Again, I hope you enjoyed. And before you go, please drop a follow on the Twitch channel. Click the About section on Twitch. And go subscribe to the 2 YouTube channels, both the main YouTube channel and also the VOD Backup Archive channel. Go follow the Twitter and go join the Discord, dude. By the way, speaking of the VOD Backup channel, I just posted a ton of videos, a shitload of content today. So go check that out if you want to see more Bren content. Like I said, give it a subscribe. Give the Twitch channel a follow. Give the Twitter a follow. Give the main YouTube channel a subscribe. Join the Discord, etc. I'm going to stop repeating myself, dudes. Again, I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, that's it for me tonight. I will catch you in the next one, homies. Peace.